Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. I am your host, Nicholas Allen, and my guest today is Matt Collins. Matt Collins is a Green Beret from the 5th Special Forces Group. He was an 18 X-ray in 2010, graduated, and when he got to his team sergeant said, you need to get a hobby to be successful. So that's just what he did. Got into kayak fishing, and now, having also been a Green Beret and an Army helicopter pilot, he is a member of the Army kayak fishing team. If you didn't know that was a thing, you sure do now. And there is a Green Beret leading the way in that field. I'll have links to Matt's socials in the show description. Today's episode is brought to you by the Green Beret owned business Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley, said Green Beret. Precision Wellness Group helps you fuel your momentum through bioidentical hormone therapy and evidence-based personalized telemedicine. Dr. Taylor Bosley is a board-certified physician, a U.S. Army veteran, and, again, a Green Beret. He knows where you've been, where you want to go, and how to get you there. And he's an actual doctor who can prescribe you actual medicine. That's a bonus. So if TRT, HRT, hormones, testosterone, peptides are something you've been thinking about for a while now, or just looking into, look no further than Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Walk-in or telemedicine. Use code LKO20 on your consultation to save 20%. Today's episode is also brought to you by Alpha Elite Performance. Get your supplements for the gym at alphaeliteperformance.com and use code LKO15 at checkout to save 15% on your order. I do appreciate you guys. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, pass these episodes along. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Matt Collins, welcome to Lesser Known Operators, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. The kind of, I don't know if the word's serendipitous, but as we were just talking about, I was talking with Josh about how he was wasting the government's money on playing video games, and no, I'm kidding. But the army has to advertise, right? And like as I said, nothing surprises me, but also you hear something once in a while, it takes you aback. You're like, that can't be true. And then you realize, yes, the government is doing everything at some level, sponsoring, whether they're sponsoring the people they're trying to kill or they're just sponsoring people to play video games in the stadium. They're advertising everywhere. And apparently I thought, when he said that, it was bass fishing, like on a bass boat, like I forget what the tour is called, the Major League Fishing or something like that. But you're out there in a fancy kayak fishing for bass. That's awesome. And also surprised me. I'm like, that can't be true. And I see all your pictures right away. I was like, that looks pretty fun.
Yeah, it's a blast. The Army has I think there's 4 or 5 of us now that get to fish. Obviously, it's just crazy. When I found out about it, I didn't even get the email. So, but I'll go back into like what the Army Outdoors team is. So the Army Outdoors team falls under the same command that the esports team that Josh was on.
So this is recruiting command, just like he was under?
Well, it switched very, very recently, and I'm not too sure what it all is now, but basically it's switching to the marketing team and less from the recruiting team. So now Army marketing is basically owning it, from what I understand. But yeah, the outdoors team. They've got several people now that are in the outdoors realm. There's 2 guys that fish on the National Professional Fishing League, which is very similar to the Major League Fishing League. And they're in the bass boats. They've got wrapped out boats and they are fishing tournaments full time. Like that is their gig. And both of them are, I think one was an MP and then the other one was a crew chief for Blackhawks. So they did their time, I think, when they were E7s or E8s. They joined the team and they've been competing for, I think, probably 3 years at this point, maybe.
Still on active duty.
Still on active duty. So they moved to Fort Knox. Fort Knox is where like your Warrior Fit team is. so your CrossFit guys, your esports guys, your outdoors team, that's all there. Um, in addition to fishing, they've got hunting. So there's a guy that's like super talented at archery, Brian Gallagher. So he goes out, does archery competitions, and super involved in that. And there's even, I think there's a major. There's two elements of the outdoors team. So there is the like full time outdoors team, PCS to Fort Knox, and that's where you're at. And then there's the at large team, which is, hey, you still get to do your 9 to 5, whatever your MOS is, and then for the outdoors team, they'll send you to events, whether they want you to be competitive in your field. So for me, that's kayak fishing. They chose that because obviously it's a lot more accessible for a kid that's probably interested in joining the military to buy a couple $1,000 kayak and go fishing than $100,000 bass boat. But so I do those competitions, and then I also will go to like expositions. So like the Bassmaster Classic, the outdoors team will host a lot of pros there and do media days and stuff like that. I've been out to Bristol Motor Speedway for a NASCAR race. They put me up on the boat, and I just talk to people about my career in the military, and just the common bond there is fishing, right? Um, so it's kind of wild. They also have horseback riding on the at-large team. So there's a female, I think she's a major Black Hawk pilot, and at large, she still does her job, but she also does like a ton of equestrian stuff. She has a one-eyed horse or a blind horse, and she does all this. I don't know much about horse stuff, but she rides a horse at these competitions, and yeah, the Army sends her out to do that. So that's really like the Army outdoors team right now. So there's the permanent
Are
party
you
and then
guys all
the at
friends and you
large.
guys know each other?
On the bass side, kind of, but I didn't know any of these people before I applied to be on the team. The whole way that happened was wild. I was sitting at the office, and I fished a bunch of tournaments out here once I left group and started to have free time. My wife told me I had to get a hobby. Um, and she told me to do my first tournament that she probably regrets. But uh, I was sitting at work, and my old company commander was up at S3 at this time, and he got an email that said the Army is looking for spots for the. This is an all call email going out to the force. We're trying to fill slots for the Army outdoors team. And then they listed like 5 or 6 different sports, like horseback riding, bass fishing, and they specifically listed kayak fishing. And so my old commander sent it to me. He's like, dude, you gotta apply for this. And I was like, that's awesome. So yeah, so I applied and found out about it. I didn't even know they had a thing. So
I get it. We get the recruiting emails for TFO and the long walk and some other things, but yeah, I can't imagine sitting there going, oh, kayak fishing. That sounds pretty. Like, is everybody else looking at this? Is this a real thing? Like, they're really gonna I mean, how do they screen for that to that you're gonna be like they gotta look at the person, right? Kind of like they did for the gamers. Like, is this somebody that's gonna be marketable moreover for skill, or how do they
yeah.
put you on a lake and say go catch some fish?
Well, that's the crazy thing, because like fishing is one of the losingest sports out there, right? Even like the pros will tell you that. Um, I won a bunch of tournaments before that, so I had sent basically a resume, and I had been working with different companies and kind of that kayak fishing realm for probably about 2 to 3 years before I applied. So I got a resume for that side of the stuff that I do. So they wanted a resume for, obviously what you do, your sport, and then they also wanted basically what's your military story. So I put all that together. I sent it to them. They put me on a call, and then it was cool. They basically said, "Hey, introduce yourself and tell us why you'd be good for the team." And you don't know who you're talking to, and then I thought I was talking to like a lieutenant colonel at least or something, and probably like a board, used to like selection boards. And then, after I do my spiel, they put their camera back on, and it's the two guys that fish on the team, and they're like, "Yeah, it's just us. We're here doing the screening." They trust us to do all that. It's like awesome. I mean, it's 2E8, so um, they do have good judgment and everything. But yeah, basically, I they had I don't even know the exact number, but it was I think upwards of several thousand people uh, applied for this job. Obviously, it's like, but they also get once you open up a dream job like that to the whole army. Obviously, everyone's going to be like, "Well, I've caught a catfish in my dad's pond. Can I be on the team?" And they have to sift through all of that. So they ended up narrowing us down to I think 12, and then from that they did the interview process and brought us on. So
How much do you think the green beanie helps you get you to the top of the pile in that?
I think it helped. I'm not, you know, stupid to think it doesn't help. I think it's the two coolest jobs in the army. Everybody watches Black Hawk Down and Rambo, so um, yeah.
Yeah, that's, because you got optics. Do they well, I guess that you're just a one-person PR team going to these events, right? So there's nobody telling you what to say. So do they give you some direction on things to bring up and how to recruit? Because, you said it's a losing, uh, sport. Like, it's a sport, right? So it's a losing sport, but you're out there to
Yeah,
recruit. So you're out there with a different goal. What do they have you targeting and saying to at these events to drum up recruiting recruits?
right. That was my question. I was like, I'm not a recruiter, guys, and they're like, we don't want you to be a recruiter. You're not a recruiter. And I was like, well, that's good. Um, they just want me to tell my story and be honest with them about my life in the military and what and kind of the opportunities I've had, um, which I'm happy to do. And then typically the way they do this is they'll pair us up with a recruiting team. So, for example, when I went down to one of the NASCAR races, that local recruiting station is there. And then we're kind of like we're like a
Attachment.
prop for them. So it's like, hey, they paid for the boat and stuff to come down there. We're out there, and then they've got their little pull up bar and all that. They're talking to um, their target audience that's coming by, and then when people see the boat, they're like, "What is this? The Army's got a bass boat?" Because I mean, it's a fully wrapped, very nice bass boat. So you're out there, and then yeah, people are like, "Wait, we do this," and then you just get to talking to them. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But the recruiting piece is not on us. I mean that would be a crazy metric to push out there. Like, how do you measure success on this? I I've had ideas for the team that it's still pretty new. This thing's less than 5 years old, I think. So I've got some ideas that I think would be good. Maybe like taking a garrison commander out to different places. Like there's lakes like Fort Rucker, for example, where flight school is. Just like an amazing lake there. I'm like, let's take the boat down there, take the garrison commander out or sergeant major, and just talk about you know what opportunities you have, and then try to do some long form video stuff there. I think tying in the media piece for them would be a lot more successful than saying, "Hey, you went fishing this weekend. How many people joined the army because of that?" Probably, probably not any. You know,
Yeah, it's tough to quantify that, and everything's shorts, right? And so you need to start capturing that, but you're just out in the kind of the boat by yourself. You're not talking. Are you talking to yourself and recording it too to make all this stuff and then and then got to make
Yeah,
that into content as well, or are you handing that off?
yeah. So, yeah, we're in a content world. That's part of it, and that's been a weird thing. Leaving group, like getting into the content stuff. Um, but I started, a YouTube channel and Instagram and stuff for my personal fishing stuff, kind of built that up. And I think that is like one of the things that they probably look at when they're screening is like, hey, do you have a following? Do you have uh, the equipment to record yourself doing this? The guys that go out and do archery that are more full time, or the guys that fish, like, yeah, they got cameras on their boats, or he's out of the range, the archery range, and he's recording, little tips and stuff. So I I think that helps highlight what we do, especially when you have a victory, or like if those guys have a top 10 at an event, that's like a huge thing because they are literally up against the pros. Um, but I don't think that that's what's going to, you know, it's a lie to say, hey, you can join the army and for fishing. That's not why you're joining the army. So you, it's a fine line. Like you don't want to. I don't want to portray that. Like I don't want to portray like, hey, join the army, you can go fish. But if we both love fishing, and I can talk about um, that as like a something to ignite a conversation between us, and then I can talk about opportunities like the X-ray program or street to seat for flight school, then that's a win for the army more than me winning a tournament. You know.
So you're just trying to act like a normal person and be like, listen, you know, this opportunity came up. There's opportunities that come up all the time, and you don't know what they're going to be, but it's an interesting job. I mean, that's like I said, the Army's, I don't know, we're not good at doing anything except killing people. And okay, now we got to get into the modern sphere. Oh, recruitment's down. So, oh, what are we going to do? Well, give some guys some fishing poles and send them out there, and well, let's get a
Right.
CrossFit team together as well, and get some gamers and give them to recruiting. But you
Yeah.
said it's not even 5 years old because I think Josh he, he started that side, the gaming, when the first team that started with it, right, when it was at the inception, because you said
Yeah.
you're part
And
of the Army outdoors team, but that he was said they were paired up with the CrossFitters, but now it's starting to all be condensed into one thing now.
so there's still different, basically, if you kind of looked at them as a structure, they would have different like company commands. So the esports team has a company commander, I believe, and so does the um I don't know, company or platoon. If I was like there full time, I'd know it more. But they're separate, but they fall under the same money basically. So they're all under the same uh funding. So, but that's under marketing. That's a switch because it used to be under recruitment, and I think they stood up a 2-star or something. I don't know. A lot of emails I don't read there about that, but it's under marketing engagement. So
What do you think of all of this when you kind of look at it from the outside and go, man, they're really sending people to go fish and play video games and do CrossFit and shoot archery? What do you think of it when you look from the outside?
when you look at the amount of money like you want to be a good steward of tax dollars, right? And I always joke about with friends, and I say, "Hey, thanks for paying your taxes." But if you look at how much we spend in marketing, how much do you think it cost? And I don't know the answer to this, but how much do you think it costs to like wrap a NASCAR uh, car or a monster truck, or some of those things that they do? A big commercial on TV. How much does that cost? Um, Also, how much does it cost me to go to a school or TDY for however long compared to, I mean, if you compare 1 hour of flight hours, it's about 10 grand on a Chinook, um, compared to sending me to a fishing tournament for a weekend. It's a drop in the bucket for the entire system, but it's still, we're still paying for that. I think the benefit of it when you look at it is it's a lot more approachable for someone to have a conversation with someone that has commonalities than someone that's at a recruiting station or wearing a uniform at your high school or walking around the mall in a uniform. That's a lot less approachable than someone you share a hobby with, you know?
A thought out long game thing, a long game as well, like for the Marines. Because for years, even after I joined, the Marines told me no because I got a tattoo on the back of my neck, right? And from there, as an 18, 20, 22-year-old kid, you think that's the greatest thing in the world because you see the billboards and you see the commercials and you see the advertising, and I mean, they've always been the best at the ads and things like that. And so you obviously you're like, oh, that's got to be the best. And what does that do to a teenage boy? You're like, oh, I want to do that. So maybe it's well thought out, or maybe they're getting lucky and they're throwing it. We just got to be everywhere, and we just got to be there to meet people when they're out and looking for something to do with their lives at the right place at the right time and present them the opportunity. But um, that's interesting. Does the does the military supply you with your equipment, or you BYO kayak, or what?
Yeah, BYO, kayak, rods, reels, tackle, everything. Um, it's, I do like a DTS voucher like you would, I'm on orders to go out and do the tournament, um, which is super nice. But yeah, it's everything's, on us. I think even the guys that um, fish on the NPFL, they own their bass boats. The Army has a super nice boat, but they are already into this game. It's like if you, I don't know, if you the marksmanship team, if you took a dude that was, a SODIC grad and you gave him a gun that was okay and he had one that was excellent, he would take his own. So, you know,
Yeah, I got to get down there to see Major Teelenhouse. He's commanding the Army Marksmanship Unit. He was my commander, one of my commanders. I can't remember how, but he was at first group. I think he was in charge of me at one point, maybe when I was concussed. But he invited me down there to go shoot, and I can't wait to go do that. So
I'm not sure, but they might even be under the same command,
he's
like
down at Benning. I don't
command
know.
structure.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Um, and then there's world class athlete program in there that factors in too, and all this other stuff.
Yeah, that's out here at Carson, which is completely different than like the Warrior Fit team or whatever. But yeah, that they got a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff going on. But so is there, all right, how do I word this? Obviously, there's somebody in charge of you, but you're a warrant, right? You're a flight warrant. So who's in charge of you at what times? Like, who do you, and also, what's your commander's intent that is given to you? Or is it just go do X and then figure it out yourself?
Yeah, so the process for basically doing a tournament, um, if it's an expo, they'll request us to come out. Be like, hey, we have a Bassmaster Classic coming up. Can you come work the booth with us or whatever? And it's like cool. When I got signed on to it, I did have to sign. I had to get my commander, command team, like battalion commander. Um, we talked to brigade about it because obviously this is weird. But we talked all the way up the channels to what this would look like, and basically, there's a memorandum of understanding between my Chinook job and the Army Outdoors team. So if there's an event that conflicts with like obviously like a deployment or um, something that works as, hey, that's important, we need you there, then I'm not going to go fish. But if there's, blank space on the calendar and it makes sense, then they're cool with it. And then once I'm there, so I'll submit a con op to go. Typically these tournaments are a couple days long, and then you'll be there for a couple days of pre-fishing or practice, and then you go do the tournament and come back. So it's for that, I'll put in basically just it's a con op for it. Talks about all the expenses for it. They say yay or nay, and you know, obviously, like the one I just did, that was in Colorado, so the expenses go way down because Colorado is far from everything fishing. It seems like it's always like a 12-hour drive, so that adds up. Now you're talking multiple days of travel and all that. But if it's just a couple hours down the road, it's a lot cheaper. So it makes sense.
And you gotta travel with your thing, so you're driving all over the place. And so you're just TDY from your home station, your home unit, going to bass kayak specific bass fishing tournaments?
Yeah, so I've done Bassmaster. They have a kayak division now. I think that's why they really wanted to get in this space because Bassmaster started bass fishing tournaments, and they're still like the number one, like rated or probably they're definitely the most popular tournament trail out there. So when they started a kayak division, I think that's why the outdoors team was like, hey, if we can get in that space, there's a lot of kids that kind of go through that circuit and work their way up. Um, so I've done the Bassmaster stuff in Oklahoma. I went to Lake Ten Killer for that, and then locally, I did one for them a couple weeks ago, which was in Colorado here, and that was two tournaments. But it was like there was a bass tournament on a Saturday, and then there was a multi-species tournament on a Sunday. So they just kept me up and had me do both of those.
And there's no requirements, right? It's just go and fish. This is the place to be, and your duties that you have to accomplish are to fish and be personable when people talk to you. That's it.
Yeah, there's a content due out. Hey,
Like
give us
that you need to turn over for them to make, or you need to make your own.
making my own if it's just me out here. I think it'd be awesome if obviously now you're like doubling the expense. But if they sent a PAO out with you, someone with a camera to capture that. But no, I got GoPros strapped all over the kayak, so it's that, and then get in front of the camera. Hey, I'm out here at this event representing the outdoors team. Blah blah blah. Um, you kind of send that. They can push it on all their socials, and then that way I think people can kind of follow the story along. Is kind of what's going on there. They can follow the story, how did the week go? Who is this guy? Oh, he's got another one coming up. I follow along to that. Oh, he's going to be at the Bassmaster thing. We'll follow their content there as well. And it kind of builds that unit of everyone that's out doing their own things. They all have different stories, you can talk to a dude that was an MP, you can talk to a guy that was, there's a bunch of us in aviation somehow, but you
Yeah,
can
I'm
get the
sensing a
aviation
theme.
side or
I'm sensing a theme. You guys have the most access to information, or something like that.
yeah, I don't know because I didn't have the information. I literally got the email forwarded to me. But yeah, it's wild when you think about it. It really is, that I get to go fish and the army pays for it. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I would have hoped that they would have bought all your stuff, but it makes sense. What happens if you break a rod or something, or you lose? Because I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess you can lose line and stuff like that. Do you have a um, per diem and things like that when towards expenses for an event?
No, like it would be the same as if you drove TDY to go to like Bragg or something, like they're going to cover your mileage and then your per diem for like incidentals and stuff. But that's like the same as, if I was just paying you to go eat, stay at your hotel, and then, the mileage on your truck to get there cuz I'm pulling a trailer around to these events. But no, like I don't I don't know how that all works at those levels. It'd be nice. I mean, obviously it'd be nice, but at the same time, I kind of built those partnerships before, so I'm really fortunate to have relationships with other brands out there that I'm using. Obviously, when I'm fishing for the army, I'm not plastering, you know, all those brands up there, but then other tournaments when I'm not wearing the army's jersey because I actually have like a fishing uniform. Uh
So, so you're a sponsored kayak fisherman on this side, and then you're the Army kayak fisherman on this side as well.
yeah, and it really just depends on like I look at it as who's paying for the trip. Like that I haven't really gotten guidance on that, you know. There's a I it's the military, man. There's a fine line of you don't want to cross, you know what I mean? Like you don't want to cross.
I'm aware. Yeah, I know how the property book and the the purchase card. You don't want to.
Right. So I look at it this way. I look at it, hey, if the army is sending me to go fish, everything is army. You know, I'm not wearing, whatever else. I'm wearing their jerseys. I'm still using hooks from people I'm sponsored by or whatever. But uh I'm not promoting that. But since I'm on the at-large team, I can really do that because like the army's not paying for me to go fishing all the time. Like being realistic about it, I am paying for fishing trips 95% of the time probably. It's just I'm fortunate enough to go a couple times, a few times a year to represent them and do that. So yeah, it's a balance because you don't want to blur that line and then you piss off the wrong person. I don't want to have that happen. So
How many events are we talking here? Because I mean, from your social media post, it seems like a lot, but social media is not real. How many events a year are
no,
you going to for the Army?
for the army, your if there are like more local events, you could probably do a lot more of them. And depending like where you live, like if you lived in an area, like if I lived in Alabama, I'd be like within 5 hours from so many tournaments that entry fees are pretty cheap. You're talking a couple $100 max. And then, but the bass boat size, like this is another reason for the kayak tournaments, bass boat size, you're talking $5,000 entry fees, kayaks, you're talking $75 to 250 maybe, on the high side. So it's way cheaper, but no, like for me, you're talking 3, 4 events a year, you know?
Okay.
So it's not a lot. I mean, realistically with work, you don't have the time to do all of them, You really don't. Because you still got to go to the field, you still got to deploy, you still got to, stuff comes up, and I still got a family of, you know,
Ah,
try to balance that, but
no, yeah, you have to find some sort of
yeah.
balance. So it's not a terrible amount. So, but you were on the at-large side. What about the guys that they their place of duty is on the water? They're all the time.
Yeah, yeah. So the way that they have those set up is that both the guys that fish full time are on a circuit. So the Army has a contract, I believe, with that circuit, which is the National Professional Fishing League. They fish every event for that circuit. So, which is probably they're typically like 9 or 10 events a year. There's a season, and then they'll be off through the winter. Typically they'll have, probably 3 months off, but when winter comes around, all the expos start coming out. So they're coordinating, taking the boat and going to different sportsmen's expos and stuff like that.
So they're getting ready. They're either fishing, getting ready to fish, or talking about fishing somewhere all the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
as an actual job. Okay. So, all right. So there's layers. There's layers to all of this going on, and that's they're in the full setup, bass boats, everything, just like you'd see on the TV, and they're yanking the shit out of the fish in there, and then they're flying around. So which always amazes me when I see those guys crank on those little fish. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's good when you get one and you pull it this way and it just, sorry, buddy. You know.
Well, I mean, that's the could be the difference between winning and losing. So, and they've got some heavy test line in there. So all right, let's get a little technical here. How big of a kayak are we talking here? Because I told you my story. I'm not big on the water. I'm kind of afraid of it. So,
Right.
how big? Because I saw your pictures, but it looks like what 12 feet long or something like that.
Mine is 13 and a half.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it's an Old Town autopilot. It's 13 and a half foot long. It is pretty stable, like super stable. Like you can go out in the ocean with this thing.
Nope.
Uh,
We're not
you
going to do
can,
that.
yeah.
I'm not. Nope.
Uh,
Not me. Somebody else could. Not me.
yeah, but no, I mean, kayaks. I remember when I first got into it, you know, kayak was like you're paddling and you're sitting inside of it, and then it's evolved to like I've got a spot lock trolling motor that's integrated into my kayak. I can It's got features that like the helicopter has. Like I can
I
push a
saw
button
you.
and
I saw you
it
pumping
locks
on
a
the
heading.
screen too.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing. So I've got a trolling motor on it. I've got multiple fish finders. I've got live scope is like a big thing, forward facing sonar. So I can literally watch the fish swimming as I'm, you know, putting my sonar beam at them. Um, it's it's as insane as you want to go. I mean, you can, but the cool thing is like there's dudes that win these tournaments in like $1,000 kayak going up the rivers and just fishing the bank. And then there's dudes that have $20,000 setups now that are out there fishing. So it's all over the place. Yeah.
A low bar to entry, but just like anything else, you can spend a shitload of money
Yeah.
and be as Gucci
Yeah.
as you want to be.
Exactly.
How many how many rods are you going out with at a time?
On my kayak, I typically take 11 or 12, but I will go down to like on a, like, you're always scared of that dude that's got like two rods because you know, like they've figured it out, you know. On a good day, if I'll go down to like six rods. So,
Okay, so we mean like, what do you mean by figured it out in relation to what? Like the fish
oh,
and
okay.
the action and
Yes. So you're typically out there for a couple days to practice, right? And you're figuring out like, do they want something that's moving? Do they want something that's just sitting there? Um, if they, you know, if they're staged a certain way, there might be like three or four rods, and I'm like, "Nope, I'm not taking those." Um, so you kind of, by process of elimination, you can do that. But then, you know, I'm always the guy that's what ifing myself to death. Like, what if that bite changes and I need that and I need that rod? So I think the last tournament, I felt super confident and I won, and I had five or six rods, and I used two rods the whole day. But typically I'll have 11 is typically like what I'm going with.
they're all stacked behind you like Game of Thrones chair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just everywhere. Yeah. Yeah.
And you got to be I guess you got to be pretty economical with your space of what you're putting in there and how you can move around, but it seems like you have a good handle on it by now.
Yeah, I mean it's strategy, right? So there's guys that they'll buy, you know, they'll load their kayak down, but it's going to make you slower to get to a spot. Like
What
there's,
how are you
you
getting to
know,
a spot? Are you said you could put a trolling motor on it, but I imagine you said $1,000 setups out there. Those guys paddling around then, right?
there there are some guys that paddle. Most people on your tournament scene now have a motor. There's also a lot of kayaks out there now that have pedal drives. So you're literally kind of sitting in a chair and you're pedaling like a bike. and it's got a little propeller under it. It looks just like a trolling motor on the bottom of that assembly, but pedal drive. So basically, the it went from paddle kayaks to then we started having pedal drives, and then now we have trolling motors. So I mean, there's guys that, and then the trolling motors they keep getting bigger, so the kayaks keep going faster. Um, so yeah, it's like anything else. You can kit out as much as you want. Spend as much as you want.
How long did it take you to get your setup from just a basic out of the box kayak to what you have now? To where you like, "Yes, this is it. I like what I've got."
Yeah, I started in 2014, and that was just I mean, it was a fishing kayak, but I was in Tennessee, like fishing rivers and just letting the current kind of take me. It was a pain in the ass, because when you're trying to stop and you're trying to fish and all this. Um, I didn't buy a pedal kayak until I was in flight school. And then I started playing around with everything. And then when I got out of flight school and here, I got a different kayak, the one I'm in now with Old Town. And that still probably took me a year to like get dialed in because you buy all this equipment and then you still have to learn it. Like there's guys that buy this, it's that forward facing sonar and they think, hey, I can see the fish swimming around. I'm going to start winning tournaments. Well, yeah, you got a new tool, but you have to learn how to use it now because you're just casting a catfish. So,
Yeah, you still gotta catch the fish. You still have to catch
yeah.
the fish. It's one thing to know they're there. I know the fish are in the lake. I just don't know how to get them out. So, why did you pick this up as a hobby when you were at Campbell?
So it was cool. Best advice I ever got in the military. I was in Afghanistan on my first trip, and I had a team sergeant that, I mean, he was awesome. Like he was on triple nickel back in the day when they invaded, and he actually sat us down and counseled us. And I was new. I was an X-ray, so this was like my first everything. You know, and he's like, "Hey, I just want to check in, see how you're doing." And it's like, "Good." He's like, "What are your hobbies?" I was like, "This is it." Like I'm gonna do whatever you say. And he's like, "That's not what I want to hear." He's like, "If you want to be successful and have a solid military career, regardless what you do, you need to have balance. You need to have a hobby." And I was like, "Oh, cool. What's your hobby?" He's like, "My whole family and I have have kayaks, and we go fishing together. They're fishing kayaks." I was like, "Okay, well, I grew up fishing with my grandpa and my dad. Like that's fun." And he started like showing me YouTube videos and stuff. I mean, this is still like super early on, like 2013 or 14. And he's like, "Yeah, there's a dude actually in Nashville that sells these kayaks." And I actually bought it on our deployment, and then I brought it home, and we'd go out. You know, our team was super super close, and we'd go out on the river together, have a good time, and hang out. But it was never like I didn't ever do tournaments or anything like that. Um, and then really the kayak was just kind of there after deployments. I'd go out and fish a couple times between trips. Um, but it wasn't really until during flight school I bought a nicer kayak because I had a buddy that was going out and I wanted to go in the Gulf a little bit and fish for saltwater stuff. So I did that, and then when yeah, and then when I got to the actual unit here, I think my wife knew that like this is the first time I've really had this much free time, and I didn't know what to do with it, man. She's like, you gotta do something, and I was like, all right. She's like, you got your kayak there. Why don't you do like one of those tournaments or something? And it's like, all right, cool. And then I think we all have addictive personalities in this community.
Everybody that comes on the show at least does.
And I went full into it. Um, So that first year, but thankfully, like, the community is so cool. I went to the first tournament. I took my wife and daughter out there to just go camping and kind of make like it was more of like a trip that I was going to go fish at as well. I didn't even know how to catch the multi-species stuff because it was two different tournaments, bass and multi-species. And a couple of the guys I met, super welcoming, like, hey, this is what I used to catch them. No, like, there wasn't like an ego thing of like, oh, I'm the best bass fisherman in Colorado because I won a tournament with 20 dudes in it, like everybody was super welcoming. And I was like, hey, that's cool. And fast forwarding now, like these are some of my best friends in Colorado, and it's been a blast. I ended up getting way down into it. I won rookie of the year the first year, angler of the year the second year, and then I just won angler of the year for the multi-species stuff. So it's been a cool ride. Yeah.
Are those regional accolades or is that a national thing?
No, they're all regional. It's all to Colorado. I've done the national stuff, um, but I haven't won one of those. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you can't be given too far, right? You got a hobby. I mean, like we had spoken, I said, bowling, that really is a state thing. Oh, and it even gets down to the county and then you go to states and things like that and it breaks out. But that must have been pretty, so because you went to selection, I think probably a couple months before I went the first time. And we were in the course relatively the same time. So I know what I was feeling like coming out of the course. That must have been pretty cool for your team sergeant to sit you down and just talk to you like a person and go, listen, this is how it is. What was your impression of that coming out of the course? Expecting, because we think life's going to be one way and we don't fucking know anything coming out of the course. And then you get to group and you've got sounds like a seasoned professional that sits you down and tells you how it is.
yeah, I got to group, and it was like our buildings were like they were still moving into the new buildings at fifth group. So I mean, we literally had like ceiling tiles falling off as we were trying to pack up for this deployment. But when I got to group, um, my sergeant major, we kind of talked about that, but he's like, I had a different experience. My sergeant major's like, do you want to go on a dive team? I'm like, or how did he ask it? He goes, are you a strong swimmer? Or do you really want to go on a dive team? He asked if I really, really, really wanted to go to a dive team. And I was like, no, not really. And I was just very honest with him. And he's like, all right, cool. I'm not sending you a dive team. You're going to go over here. My senior echo came and got me down the hall and then took me to my team. Um, my captain was awesome. And my team sergeant wasn't there yet. But I remember them saying, like, hey, we have like a few months to get ready and go do this. We're not doing any of the bullshit. Like, we don't have time for that. And I was like, all right. And I mean, I showed up, I had a case of beer ready for the fridge, and I was ready to, do whatever they said. But everybody on my team they were all like, I was the junior guy by a lot, you know. It was like we didn't have a warrant on our team. So we had what, 11 of us, but we were actually we only had one Delta too, so we had 10. But it was a strong 10, you know. So yeah, we just started going to the range and getting after it, and it was awesome. But I remember when I met my team started for the first time, it wasn't what I expected. I mean, I had heard like, hey, you know, get ready because like he's a lot more serious than everybody and stuff. Because there's different generations of people. You meet all sorts of different personalities at group, from your hard asses to the guys that joke around, and you just don't know what you're going to expect until you sit down with somebody. And I was the dude that I was an X-ray, and I was terrified the whole time going through the course that today is going to be the day I fuck up something, you know. And I remember my SUT cadre was like, "Why are you so spazzing out all the time. It's like, I don't want to screw this up, you know? So I just had that mentality probably for the first like 3 years at group. Like, I don't want to mess this up. And when he took me aside and like sat me down like a human, and it was just great leadership between him and the captain I had, like the best leadership I could have had.
That's awesome. Sounds like, the exact opposite of what happened to me, so congratulations. Good, but I love to hear that because I tell guys, like, I had a bad experience. I went to a bad team. It fucking sucked, ruined my life. That is not, that's not the norm. That just happens. Unfortunately, that's what happens. Most of my friends had a great experience when they got to group, and they're either happy or not, didn't get out when they didn't want it to. But yeah, that's awesome. That's good. But what what started you down the whole path to wanting to be a GB anyway? Um, I mean, but it's just funny. Like, yeah, it's the same thing when I was talking to Josh. It's like we're just talking about video games and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, and like, you know, Green Beret, and then Ranger Battalion before that for him, and like, okay, yeah, you're out on the lake, casting, catching fish, but before that, oh, I'm gonna go be a Green Beret.
Yeah. I I wasn't I heard Josh's story where he was just like, yeah, let's go do that. Yeah, let's go do that. I guess it's similar, but I think a lot of X-rays are kind of like that, where it's like I didn't grow up, you know, I didn't have a big military family. My grandfather served, both my grandfathers served in World War II, and then one of them served in Korea. Um, my grandfather I was closest to, he was like in the Navy in World War II, and then he owned a grocery store, and that was like my closest connection to the military. So it really wasn't that close. Like we respected it and honored it, but it wasn't like family tradition or anything like that. I went to college. I studied music and business, and then I became an audio engineer out in New York City. Did that for kind of like an internship, and then I took a job doing audio consulting um, back in the Midwest in Indiana. I was from Illinois, and I did that for a few years, but I was just kind of a floater, man. Like I what like it's cool to look back to see like where my maturity was before the military and now, because I'm thankful for the military for that, because Lord knows where I'd be today without like having good discipline and having some ass chewings that I needed to have, you know. But yeah, I did a few years of audio engineering and consulting, and I was like, okay, I don't know what I want to do, you know, but I knew there was something different. I had a buddy that I went to college with, and he was in the infantry. And that's like the only thing I knew about, this is like 2006, 2007 as well. So yeah, the news was always going off about, you know, that was like the time, right? So every time I'd come home, it'd be something about war, on the news. And I remember I just kind of reached out to my buddy that was in the infantry, done a couple deployments to Iraq. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I love it, dude. And I ended up kind of thinking about it, but I was like, I don't know. I didn't commit to it, right? So I was also a musician. I would play keyboards at like some jazz and rock clubs or whatever. So I was on the way to one of those shows, and I got T-boned. Not my fault at all. Like I was talking to my dad on the phone. Shouldn't talk on your phone, but my phone got knocked out of the car, went out the passenger side. I go to the hospital, but not like banged up too bad, just scared the hell out of me. So they took me over there. I was okay. But that was really like my wake up call that I wanted to do something different with my life. And I love to go scuba diving. And I was like, think I want to be uh, a Navy diver. I don't know why. I looked at that. So I go to the Navy, and they're like, yeah, you can be a Navy diver. Hell yeah. And so I go through like their they had a special warfare dude that like signed me off on all the swim tests and PT test or whatever. It says, hey, go to MEPS. I'll have your contract ready in a couple days. It's like sick. So I go to MEPS to do the duck walk or whatever, all that stuff. And I come back, didn't hear anything like negative there. A couple days turns into like almost 2 weeks. And I hadn't heard from this special warfare dude. What's going on? It's taking a while. I guess contract. He calls me up and like, he's like, dude, I'm sorry. They should have like asked some basic questions. Like my eyesight was way too bad to do that job. He's like, you needed like 20 over 200 and my eyesight wasn't even like readable. It was like off the charts how terrible it was. He's like, you can't be a Navy diver or SEAL or anything like that. And I was like, oh shit. He's like, I was like, well, what can I do? He's like, here are some jobs. He's like, I'm telling you, if it was me, I would get out. Cause I'd already gone to MEPS and like raised my hand. And so I go back to the recruiter, the recruiting station, and there's like some chief there. And he's trying to get me to be like a bosun's mate or something, like stuck on a ship. And I was like, you need to get me the hell out of the Navy. Um, so that was that. Well, 1 year to the date and one block away from that car accident, I got in another car accident. That wasn't my fault. I got T-boned.
Sure it wasn't. Sure it
And
wasn't. I'm sensing a theme.
not my fault by the insurance. But no, like I was like, shit, I think I still need to do something. So I went to the Army recruiter and I was like, hey, and she's like, well, you got college, like you could be an officer. And I was like, sweet. So I put an OCS packet in. And right as I was getting ready to do my interview, it was going to be the following week. Uh, the recruiter came up to me and she's like, hey, um, I want to bring something up to you. I think this might be like up your alley, but I need to know like soon because like if you're going to lock in this interview, I don't want to waste, whoever's time doing it. So she's told me about the X-ray program and I didn't know anything about it. I hardly knew about the Green Berets. I went home. I think I watched like probably like why they serve video or something like that, or maybe it was 2 weeks in hell. I think I
Two
that I
Weeks in Hell had,
watched.
had just come out at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I came back. I think we talked at like 9 a.m. and I came back by noon and said, "Hell yeah, let's do it." And that was it.
Sign me up. We went from
Yeah,
being an officer to the rough path of being an 18 X-ray. But they don't tell you
yeah.
that part that it's gonna suck. They just said, "Oh yeah, here."
No, yeah, and I don't know what the bonus. I don't remember what the bonus was, but I hear like the bonuses now. Like you can earn $20,000 or whatever it is to be a ranger. I think I got less than 4 grand to finish the Q course or something. So
And you
if
got the
that,
shit
like,
smoked out of you for 2 years as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's do this.
Ugh,
So you had no
yeah,
idea what you're getting into, and I mean, same thing. I was like, I want to do that, but I didn't know jack shit. Like getting into it, like I didn't know anything until really the end of the course. And I started to figure out. I was like, oh, okay. And then you get to group, and everything's
yeah,
different there, and all kinds of shit. But so you had no idea
yeah.
what
There
you're
was
getting yourself into, and did they
there were
give
some
you any idea?
books. Yeah. So, what was the book? I think Dick Couch wrote it, and it was like a special forces prep book about
Get
rucking.
selected.
Yeah, that was it. And I read that because I wanted to know, like, shit, I'm going to do this. I want to pass, right? Because the consequences are you go to the 82nd or whatever. But I didn't. I had no clue what like rucking was or any of that stuff. So I bought an Alice pack and I just started like, and this is in Indiana, in like Fort Wayne, Indiana. So I started like walking, literally, just rucking like 12-mile rucks out, blistering my feet up and figuring it out and figuring out how to. But it was just, yeah, I remember I read that book. I read some running books. I was just trying to figure out how to PE good enough, I guess, but you don't know.
No, no, you don't know. It's interesting. You kind of take these weird stabs at it. 'Cause I look back when I trained up. I just, what did I do? Got a CrossFit gym membership. I was like, this will help,
Did
and
that.
it did
Yep.
help. It did help. It was actually pretty helpful because it was strengthening your back and your legs up. Um, and that was a good gym run by a power lifter that owned the place. So that was his programming worked well, and it wasn't where you go like flail around and some they don't know what they're doing. But um, and that's interesting. It's always interesting to me. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go do this, and then, oh yeah, I don't know, I'm just gonna figure it out. And the people that graduate, they all just figure it out. And now there's guys that have huge prep programs that you got to do this, and this, and then the rest is up to you. It's all laid out for you. But back then, yeah, it was get selected, and then 2 Weeks in Hell came out in 2009, and then there's a big gap in time to where guys started getting out from our generation, and they have prep programs now and things like that. So it's always good for them. Because I'm
Always
always,
evolving, right?
yeah, it's always evolving. And the course is whatever it is now. Did you have to go through IUW when you went through the course, or was that right after you?
Was that was IUW and CLT the same
So
thing?
CLT was Combined Leaders Training,
Or
which is a WLC and then ALC all at once,
I did do IUW. Yeah. So
with the
when we went
surprise
out there,
land nav and the gates again right before the course.
got all the gates. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So I do remember that. We had all the gates. I don't remember if I had to do all the gates again. So I was there right as that was coming up. Uh, but I remember I was thinking of CLT when they dropped us off outside of McCall Airfield, and we had like, two duffel bags of shit in a rucksack, and we walked the entire ring around the airfield and just got smoked for what, hours, you know? And then we did
Wait,
combatives against each other. Josh and I might have been in the same one because some kid broke his rib because there was like a black belt karate kid in our class from Indiana University that whooped the shit out of everybody. But it was him, and then they had a gold glove boxer or whatever the boxing thing is. Uh, Basically, they whooped everybody's ass, and then had to go against each other. The karate dude, you could hear the wind just go out when he hit his ribs. It was insane. But I remember that, like this was, before they had the nice buildings out there and stuff. But yeah, they would, like, you literally had cadre above you, like, like these are all your buddies and you're just beating the hell out of each other. I had glasses on at the time. I couldn't see shit. I'm just boxing and doing combatives. And you would get the guy on the edge of the sandbags. It's just a dirt pit that you were in fighting each other. And they just did a bracket, and everybody five. I mean, I'm surprised more people didn't just get injured and kicked out of the army for it. But you would have cadre over you, like, finish him like Mortal Kombat style. And if you didn't finish the dude, it was literally like, all right, we're adding 2 more minutes, and you're like, oh no, it was all open palm going at it. But holy shit, I think we all ended up leaving there with black eyes and bruises. And
so
yeah,
that must have been in like 11, because in
yeah.
13, the summer of 13, when I got there, the cadre were telling us stories about the other cadre that had, I think, either been relieved or UCMJ'd or something for having students fight. And like, this was another rumor, is that they were betting on the matches and stuff like that too. Um,
It could have been. I don't know. I never heard about that part. But I
that
mean,
was,
it
that was a
was,
student one of things like that
yeah,
too. But I believe the
yeah.
cadre told us that, yeah, there had been some cadre that got a little overzealous with having students fight each other. And then I believe right around the time you were there, some of the cadre, I think, brought some of the students home to work on their houses.
It was wild. I'll tell you the wildest thing that I saw there. So I was an X-ray, so I had to do SOPSI and all that. And we, this was a day, man. So, like, I don't know how we did it, but everybody still partied, like hard on the
Every
weekends.
everybody did. That's what I try and be real with people right now. Like, there's all these fitness plans and you can eat healthy and be like, we drank every free moment that we had while we were in the course. All of it, like all of it.
Yeah, we were either up in Raleigh or downtown in Fayetteville, or whatever. But it was like a Monday morning, not too long after we had just got there. So just finished airborne school and you get your first freedom. Well, we had this dude that was he was like throwing up as the cadre were about to walk in, and this was the old barracks on post that they ended up tearing down. And there was a hill by it that make you run up and down the hill all the time. And this kid was in bad shape, man. Like he's throwing up in the bathroom, and half of us are trying to clean because we're going to get our barracks inspection. Half of us are trying to like get him downstairs so that we can make formation in time. Well, we all at some point, you just got to go to formation. Screw the kid. If he can't make it, whatever. So we're all standing in a box, formation. Cadre walks up, and you just hear thump. And then you see the cadre look up, and he's like, what the fuck? And he runs over there. This kid thought that so he was hanging on as the cadre walked up. Kid was hanging on. He had climbed out of the building from the third floor, was hanging on to like, the drain pipe. And then he fell, broke both of his legs. So we all got smoked for that, of course. But
Obviously.
the kid got kicked out of the course. But like the craziest thing is hanging out of a building trying to like he idiot. But that happened, and then I remember the punishment was there was a dirt pit, and this was a hole between our building and then the cadres building, and like where they had all the ropes to climb, and they had a hole there that was it probably started as like 2 or 3 feet. They had this dude out there with a shovel for like 12-hour shifts, and I think I probably have a picture of it. This it was like it was probably 12 foot deep by the time they finished it. Like he was down, like down in this hole. And it was probably like a 5 foot rectangle cube going all the way down. And they would just dig. If you got in trouble, you would just go dig all day long. And until they kicked you out and out processed you. But so you didn't want to screw up.
I haven't heard that one before. That's super dangerous, especially in North Carolina with that sandy soil. That'll just close up and you'll never be able to get the person out. Um,
We had a cadre have a heart attack on a run once.
I'll bet the students were really sad about that one.
No, he was a hard ass dude. He was infamous cadre out there, but he was running once, and he actually had a heart attack. Ran himself into was it Womack or whatever the hospital is there? And they're like, yeah, you just had a minor heart attack. So oh, shit, but pays to be a winner like every day. It
Oh,
was everything was pays to be a winner.
I think I knew who you were talking about. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's some. Oh, so anyway, I guess what I got into that was IUW. So that was just starting. I'm trying to bracket in a couple of the eras of
I think I
selection.
was. So I think I was the last. I may have been the last. So when I was graduating, they were in the process of switching language to be at the what at the end, maybe. I
So
think mine was at the beginning.
half of my class had no, not half. Some of my class had to do language twice because they had like recycled the Delta course in the middle. So they did language on the front end, and then by the time they got to graduation, they said, "Well, it's time for language again," and you had to do it again. So because it had flipped to the end at that point, one guy was in the course for 4.5 years while I was there. Um, yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. He was getting it. He was certified. I mean, he was fluent in Russian when he got to day one of language the second time. So he was pretty good when he got out of there. He's like, man, all he did was have a
Oh,
blast because the teachers all knew him
yeah.
and he was good to go. But smart dude. Yeah. So you guys started IUW. See, I'm trying to work out the different
I think
eras of the
so.
Q course because um, now is the modern era because they got rid of IUW because when you went out to do that second land nav at the NTA, they would just drop half the class, more than half the class, because it was harder.
Oh, we did do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. We did that. Yeah. I remember that. Yep.
yeah, and I think that's the only point in the Q course where it was actually the Q course got extremely hard to graduate at that point. It was this gradual progression and getting harder, and then it had this jump during IUW, and then went back to baseline because you would pass selection, go back to your home unit, or you would whatever, and then you'd go to the NTA or come back and start the Q course, and then you'd get dropped on the first 3 days of the Q course because you had to do land nav again, and it was a harder course this time that took more skill. And like 75% of our class got dropped or recycled that one time. So,
Yeah. I think as an X-ray, you're kind of, it was just a blur of like
but yeah,
1 to 2 years, depending, whatever you were doing. But at least we were always in it. God, going back to your unit and then showing up, that would be so much harder than what we had, because we had the prep course and we had selection. And then you went back and basically you had to compete for your spot to go to the next course. So we would be in hold and it'd be like, who had the highest PT test? Okay, you guys, you seven get to go to selection next, or you get to go to whatever. I think it wasn't until well after that where, it wasn't like, hey, if, and you knew too, like you knew who the guys that were going to be there a while were because you know, you'd go on the runs and there'd be a line, we'd go out of the trails and then that same cadre would be like, all right, starting here, you guys, everybody in front of him, go walk to the softball diamonds and come back. And he would smoke the shit out of everybody else. And it would be, those are the guys that are not ready to go to the next course, and we'd come back and they'd do low crawling or whatever.
yeah, interesting. The whole the SOPSI, program where the guys that are kind of trailing at the back of SOPSI are middle of the pack or better of the people coming out of the regular army. And then but
Yeah.
it's the cadre that are Green Berets are like, we gotta keep the standard, or they're being told to hold this standard or whatever. But meanwhile, the regular army is sending people out and they're failing at 75% of them, a rate of 75%. And then by the time you get through SOPSI and go to the course, you're almost everybody passes, which is
But yeah, dude. And like, well, I think so my X-ray class, like if you're looking like from basic to who actually like
no,
got to
from
put on
going
the beret.
from SOPSI in select. If you're an X-ray and you get to selection, you're you're probably going to pass.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we had, because you look at it like the gates, for selection, it's always for classes that I saw, it was always the X-rays and then a few studs from the Army were in like the top 10, you know? And then, like the ruck was the same way. It would be like a couple dudes from the regular Army and like 10 X-rays from SOPSI because all they did was ruck every day. So it was just like we were really good at putting a ruck on and running for 12 miles. That was it. Like that's all we knew.
So you get selected. Now, for me, selection was the thing that was what I shot for, and after that, it was all up to me. That I really feel like the whole course was downhill after that point. It all fucking sucked after that, but it was once I got selected, I was like, okay, I'm going to graduate. There was no other thing like that. What was your top of the mountain for the course? Was it graduation, or was there a phase that you had in your mind? You're like, okay, once I get done with that, I've got this.
I think for me, it was finishing like passing SUT, um, just because I had no clue on what an ambush was or anything. Like, thank God I had selection. Like when I got selected, you go through with all these like peers that are x-rays and you kind of stack yourself up in relation to them. And when I got selected and I had three really close friends that did not, and two of them I think were kind of like on my level. And then I had another one that was like, I was like, he's a shoo-in to get selected. And that was kind of like screws with your mind a little bit because you're like, okay, well, I can't assess things properly. But then when I got to SUT and hearing like, you're friends with the X-rays that went to class before you to SUT, and you're talking about, winter classes where they're breaking through ice and it's just miserable, right? And I got out there just terrified that that was going to be what did it. And when I first got there, we had a guy that was a recycle in our lane, and he was a guard dude, and he got recycled. He passed with us, great dude. But like the stories that he had and like the process of recycling and like thinking about having to do all that shitty stuff twice, it's just like the guy, I never went to Ranger school, but thinking about recycling and then having to go do that again, like, damn. So I think in my mind, I compared SUT to like Ranger school, that it was going to be just miserable. And parts of it certainly were. But once I passed SUT, this was when I was like, okay, probably can do this, but it was all because I don't know if it's the same way, but it was like you never knew when you were going to get it, like we finished, I don't know when, what was before, if it was SEER school or if it was SUT. I think we did SUT and then SEER. And then we went to the Echo course. And when we started the Echo course, I think we started out on radios and then we worked ourselves to computer lab. And we were all like just so excited to like go to Bank Hall or whatever and not get smoked out at the Echo compound. So we all like load up on pre-workout. We get to go to the gym. Life is good. So we show up to our computer class and then we get drug out like day one of computer class because someone did something. And I remember that was the worst smoking I ever got in my life. I couldn't see. I went blind, probably about to pass out. But thankfully, there was a dude in front of me. At this point, like I'm standing up, he's giving some story about war and how we all suck, and and dude in front of me, like the lights go out, dude, and I'm just standing there, and this kid in front of me is like, or he noticed it. He's like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Ah, shit, is he talking to me?" And this kid spoke up. He's like, "I can't see shit, Sergeant." And he's like, "Everybody sit down." And I was like, "Thank God," because I was about to drop. And but hey, if you drop, like you're terrified of being medically dropped, So, I think you're always on edge through the course, regardless when it is. Like you got to be ready for every day. I think when you graduate the course, I always say this to people: like, what is a new Green Beret? It's someone that didn't screw up for 1 to 2 years, like getting in trouble. They didn't get like a DUI or something that messed up most of the time. And two, they're not going to quit. And they'll pass the gates, all that stuff. But you got a dude that is not going to quit or get in trouble, and that's really what you get like out of the course.
Yeah, not get caught, I think,
Yeah,
is yeah,
because
not get
like we see,
caught.
you look at the Q course compared to like buds or ranger school, it's so long. And I think that is like a difference that we have, is that there's a maturity that comes with that, that you have to have your shit together for at least a year, if not two, if you're a medic. Um, yeah.
Yeah, they give you a lot of rope to hang yourself with in the Q course. Um, you because those I mean, we had tax, and if they didn't have anything for us, they're like, "Get the fuck out of here. We'll see you on Tuesday. It's a 4-day weekend. You come in on Tuesday. I mean, the only break that we had was between small unit tactics and SEER because I was at the end of the alphabet.
Okay.
And I think we came in the the following Monday or Tuesday after SUT, and the other class went out. The half the class went out for SEER, and they're like, "All right, come back on Friday or Thursday, and we'll check everybody for." Then they give us four. It's like they I don't, I just went home, but the guys that were in the barracks, the single guys, they were in no condition to be in formation when they would come back because they knew the deal. Like those, they're like, no, these guys, these techs, because they're all living there with these people and they know which cadre don't give a fuck as long as nobody's getting in
Yeah.
trouble. And they'd show up fucking from the party to formation, and then they would leave and go right back out. Like Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, guys.
Yeah. It was, yeah.
Ah. But if anybody's
The,
listening to this, and if anybody's listening to this, it's probably more healthy to do that in smaller amounts and safer if not. But who am I to preach to anybody to tell them what to do? Whatever. I think, however you're
it's
going to
also
get through it.
in my 20s then, like, if I did that now, I'd be down for like a week, you know?
Yeah.
There's no,
Yeah, you just make it happen. You just make it happen, and you're with all your buddies all the time, and everybody's egging you on. But um, what do you think of the Echo course? What did Josh put it as? He said it wasn't hard. It was just like you show up with all your gear, you do a simple math problem, and then you have to take all your gear off way the fuck over there to do another one. What did you think of the Echo course?
so the civilian instructors that we had were amazing. We had the guys that taught radios. That was like the first, I think that was probably the first really professional instruction that I had outside of like the stuff that you get at selection, like the little classes and stuff. Like, yes, all that was, but like, it wasn't like, hey, you rappel down this thing and then they just kick you off. They actually showed you how things worked, you know? And that is when I really started to appreciate like teaching methods because radios are like, if you do this, then this happens for like menu trees and such, you know, because we're working on like the 117s and all the different radios. And I really enjoyed that part of it. I think what Josh was probably talking about was our Colex. It was hell. Like, and I don't know if they still do it, but you know, all the guys that were old school echoes, like the guys well, like decades before us, they had the heaviest damn rucksacks that you could have, right? Because all those radios and batteries and stuff. So our Colex was basically, it was a land nav course. So it was like another IUW course. They'd take us out there. You would be, I think you had a, they paired you up, I believe. So you weren't completely alone, but you walked, I mean, they were far points. And you'd walk, you get to your point, your ruck's probably 120 pounds, and you'd walk, get to your point, and then you'd have a combo shot to do. And every point was a different radio that they taught you through the course. And, you know, we all had to do our HF shots, and some guys didn't get them, and then I had to go do it again. And, or your SATCOM shots or whatever it would be. But yeah, it was a brutal, brutal Colex. Like that was another that so after SUT, that was like the last thing I really had to pass would be that. Yeah.
You know, you say you said, some of your buddies got dropped at selection, and then you're like, well, I guess I don't know how to assess anybody. Knowing what you know, because now you're farther in the course, and then you went on to group, and then you have to learn how that operates and like the different kinds of people. Do you realize why they got dropped now, or is that a mystery to you?
With one of them, the one that I think like could make it, I, I don't think we get it right 100% of the time. There's human error in there. people also just get hurt, you know? I had a dude that was a CrossFit coach, like, he was he was so jacked compared to all of us, and at SOPSy, lifted a barbell up and, like, tore his shoulder out, dropped. And it's like, I I think that definitely on the psychological, like, the assessing who you are as a human being, that there's a maturity level that we don't understand when we go through selection, but the variables that are in there, like, some of it's luck, man. Like, did you twist your ankle or not crossing the 4,000th log on land nav, you know? Like, did did that Kim light just kinda come out of nowhere for you when you glanced that way? Um, and I'm not saying it's like a luck thing, because I think those people that found 5 points might still find 4 and get favorably selected or something, but I I think that there is definitely, you know, a there's a variable in there that shit can go wrong, and maybe that's the type of person that goes back another time and passes it and crushes it. Um, but and I also like, faith wise, I believe like we have a purpose and we're designed to do things. So I think like if you're meant to do it, you're going to do it. But that's a separate kind of belief thing. But no, I think that assessment wise, especially as you get into other assessments and stuff, you see how much is put into the backside of all of that, where you're like, yeah, they know what they're looking for, you know?
Yeah, there's we do. If you're going to have people involved, you're going that are going to have to make a opinion. But they have overlapping, and they're supposed to be fail safes of to get that. If somebody sees something, that's egregious, okay, well that doesn't line up with what everybody else is seeing or something like that. But no, I agree with you. I even you know the first group sergeant major, when I interviewed him a couple weeks ago, he said, "Why can't maybe we should take a chance on some of these people?" And for a group sergeant major to say that, it's like, oh, what's he seeing to get him to say that thing? So, but numbers are way down. They not graduating very many people. Group is shrinking, whether that's by design or just the way the recruiting economy is. But no, it's interesting because when we went through, the classes were huge. I mean,
Yeah,
massive. I had almost 500 people in my selection class.
man. And I don't really remember. I think I had 300, maybe.
There was 10 selections a year. That might still be the same thing. And then I think there was 6 or 8 graduations a year. They're at 4 now.
Yeah. But I mean, after the gates, like half those people are gone, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, 20% got dropped on the PT test. I remember both times I went to selection, 20% got dropped on the PT test. It was crazy. But
Yeah. I think we get it wrong the opposite way on the other side too, sometimes, where maybe we select a guy that it's not his thing. And I guess that's what the course is for, to weed that stuff out, you know? But
why do you say that though?
you know, there's when you're on like a good team, or even in the hallway, like there's turds float, you know, and you'll see them wherever you are. If you're in the regular army, there are people that suck at your job. If you're not in the military, you know someone that doesn't hold up to where everyone else is. And you can see that there's guys that make it all the way to group, and unfortunately that happens. But I mean, I think in a perfect world, you know, maybe these people get selected, but it's more of a filter where you start filtering out these people that don't deserve to be there for whatever reason it is throughout the course. But when you had so many, I mean, maybe they're getting better quality because they have less distractions. They can look at, you know, less of a pool of people and say, yes, these are all going to be good Green Berets. Whereas if you had 500 of them, you can that guy can take a knee for a second and not get caught or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Eh, I, you're right. Yeah. People make it to group and then it's sometimes just not a good fit. I, man, even just myself, like I still worry about like how I did in group. And like it was like I said, I went to a team and it was over right away. And that's some of that imposter syndrome creeps up in my head. Like, was I a piece of shit? Well, you got hurt, man. Yeah, I know, but still, was I? Yeah, because the stuff that happened with me, there's no injuries. I look fine. They couldn't tell. So it's all in my head. And then you start trying to convince yourself, you're like, am I hurt? Yes, you're hurt. And then the concussed me is trying to talk about me and it's all this weird thing. So, uh,
I think
I'm not,
everybody's got that.
I think
I don't
everybody,
think you get through a group like I said. Like I don't know when it was that I felt like I had like that I belonged. Because there's especially at fifth group. Like when I got there, everyone had you do your first deployment, big whoop that your team sergeant's got like 10 of those. Or at least like 4 or 5, so you're still a junior dude until someone else comes in. I guess you get enough junior guys, and then what are you, just elitist, think that you're better than someone because they haven't, and then you look at them and they're better at someone's always going to be better than you, and that's not just group, like, you could be the best guy at group. There's a curtain that you can peek behind, and there's 100 people that are better than you, and there's a curtain behind that one, and 100 people are better than them. Or 50. Maybe it filters down a little bit, but there's always going to be someone better than you. You're never going to be the best. You can be the best version of yourself, but that's it. Like, and you can be the best person that you need to be for your teammates. And that's probably as good as it is, you know?
yeah, yeah. And that one thing I'd like to point out is like the person who's the best rarely comes out on top. Like, just because they're the best at something doesn't mean they know how to market themselves or speak, you know, uh, or be personable or things like that. You have to have a whole array of things to come out on top. Um,
And life happens, man. Like, God, you can, like, how many times do you hear it? It's like, yeah, that was the best dude in the company that, just a tragic thing happens to, whether it's overseas or not, or cancer or something. And it's just like, shit happens, like you can be the best, not to be like super doom and gloom about shit, but like you can be the best and then, you get injured, so it happens.
it does. It's unfortunate. Uh, I let it bother me. I mean, it still bothers me a little bit now, but I'm pretty okay with it. I got some other stuff that I'm pretty good at that that I'm proud of myself. I mean, how does that carry over to like with the fishing? Like to not to jump around too much now,
Yeah.
but how do you quantify success in the fishing? Is it because I mean, is it like what are you fishing? What's the goal of the fishing? Is it weight or number of fish or how do you win that? 'Cause
Yeah.
that just popped in my head. I'm like, what's
Right.
winning look like there?
Yeah. So in kayaks, we don't have like live wells or tanks that you can throw the fish in to keep them alive for a weigh-in. So we have like a certified measuring board and it's all off quarter inches is as small as it goes. So to the quarter of an inch. So your biggest fish in inches is what decides the tournament. And it's all thrown pretty much on an app. So you take pictures, submit your fish or whatever. That's how it's scored for us. As far as like, how do you quantify, like, are you asking how the army does or like how I do, like
I don't know.
how
It
I
just
measure
popped in my head because
success?
we're always like, how do you measure success? Like groups, one thing. Like it's this weird thing. Like because you can, like what I was the best at group, uh, of getting IVs. I was the best guy at getting IVs at group. There's nobody better than me because fucking I got
I'm
two
with you. I
half
got
inch
train tracks
veins.
for you.
And
Yeah.
man, the Deltas could always rely on going to get Nick. It would cost you 2 beers, and I'll take 2 IVs, and I'll just sit there drinking my beers out of their beer fridge while they give me IVs and try to train their new guys on cross training stuff like that. I was the best there was at that. But I was just groups of fucking weird place. And what did I say? Um, you can be the smartest and the stupidest guy all in the same sentence in the team room.
Oh
and
yeah.
and that happens all the time, like, and shit like that. So groups its own thing. You kind of got to experience it. But I said, well, what about what he's doing now? Like, what does success look like in fishing for you? Is it
Yeah.
and how do you build on that?
So yeah, like on the national stuff, it's super difficult because, imagine you go to a tournament to fish or yeah, and obviously like if you fished on your home lake for 25 years and then I come in there, you have an advantage because you know what every rock feels like on that bank, that you're ticking. And I got to figure it out in like a couple days before we do the tournament. So the national stuff is pretty difficult for that. I try to set goals for myself and then I try to stack up to those. So that might be like I'm getting a limit today if it's been really tough. Like I'm going to catch 5 fish and I'll go through my confidence stuff to make that happen. Um and sometimes it's I'm going to win that tournament. Like it's kind of like game small, miss small. If you always aim for winning, then maybe you'll always get a top 10 um, or something like that, But I think that's just like we're wired to be addicted to things and competitive at things, whatever it is. Like everything is a competition. So I always want to do well, but yeah, I, the way I measure success is like I I had to change it. So like when I first started having these partnerships, it kind of freaked me out, like, the first season that I actually, like, had some sponsors and stuff, because you don't wanna screw up for them, right? Like, you got their logo on it, and you don't want them to think, like, this is not a good return on investment, um, when realistically, like, they, most of the time, don't care. They want you to push content more than they do even winning the tournament. You winning a tournament pushes content for them, but the first year I like psyched myself out so much of like, I got to win this event. And like, I would think about that more than what do I need to be doing in this process. So I kind of walked back from it and been like, what do I need to do? Like, what does success look like at each event? So some events, yeah, and yeah, I can gauge that from like practice to be like, I know that after I fish a practice for 2, 3 days, I know a lake well enough to say, I think it's going to take around this to win in inches, right? Maybe that's like 85 inches or 90 inches or whatever. So then that'd be my goal, right? Like, I think 90 inches is going to win. I want to shoot for 90 inches. Um, but then shit happens. It's fishing. So like, the lake drops 5 feet and all your fish swim away. So now you're just trying to catch 5 fish, you know?
Hmm. It's interesting you say with the sponsors and too, right? I had a similar feeling, because this show's sponsored. We have one sponsor, and it's a different kind of motivation. Mine's based off of views, right? So it's now, okay, okay, you're gonna make more if you get views, and okay, how do you smash a bunch of work into a short amount of time on on a platform that takes time to build and be interesting? And sitting over here and like, if I fret over what I want to say too much, then I don't know what I'm going to say, and I kind of lose my train of thought. So, no, interesting to me that you get into that and you're like, because Army, SF's one thing, and then you go over and you get into the aviation world, but you're this whole undertone the whole time is that kayak. So from the time you get in the group, the kayak's just steady there for you as you're going doing this thing in group and deploying, and then now you're going to go fly helicopters and all this other thing, but the kayak's there. So that's kind of your feel like your baseline of you returning to normal, but then you're also in a competition as well with that thing that's always there for you that you go back to. So it's just interesting.
Yeah. Well, I never did competitions until I got to Colorado. So that was like a different thing. When I was a group, it was
That's
just
just
like,
evolved. Then it just evolved
yeah,
though,
it just
because
evolved into that. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because you said you got the little kayak, and then you start building onto that and building onto that, and you're like, oh, now I feel comfortable. Let's do this thing, and then now you're competing for the army and things like that. So it's just interesting that it builds that way, but it goes along there. And then what does success look like for that thing that, because you said your team sergeant said you got to find a hobby, right? And if you want to stay in the army, you got to find a hobby. Well, now it's your hobby has become more than that. Does it still have the same meaning as it did when you started? It's just more evolved.
Yeah. It is. And like the fact that if I was doing this, if the army was paying for me to do it or sponsors or not, if that all stopped tomorrow, and I had the opportunity to go fish, I would go fish tomorrow, regardless of any of that. Like I love it. So I think it's a passion more than a hobby. I've definitely probably maxed out the word hobby on it by how much time and money I've spent on it, but um, it's a passion for sure.
Interesting. You can keep it though. I still, I watched the videos like even though like you get because you're on the water. I was like, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm gonna flip over just watching this guy's content. So good for you.
Yeah, they're stable.
Sure they are. Sure they are. Sure they are. Yeah. What was it like getting to group? We talked about sitting down with your team sergeant, but you said you came over to fifth group and there you're getting ready to deploy. And on the show, I think I've told you, I don't get too much into the combat or deployment stories. It's not really my place to comment. I never got to go. And not only do I have no opinions, I have no place to give opinions as well. But going from the course, and that's one way, to getting to group, did you when in the process did you figure out what a Green Beret actually was and did?
Probably. So I got to group. It's what you're like an E5 when you graduate the Q course. Got back from Afghanistan, mid E6. It was the last board I ever had to do. And then it was probably when I picked up 7 that I felt like I somewhat knew what I was doing. It took a while. I mean, it's just because I also moved around. So when I started out there, like groups have restructured. Gosh, I think they're back to naming them 3 letter or 3 numbers or
Three numbers
whatever.
now,
Is it
yeah.
3 now?
Yeah.
Because I get to work with 10th group out here. But it's it changes, a lot. So I went to 4th Battalion, but I was on a team, and then we did that deployment. I left 4th Battalion to go to 3rd Battalion. So that was like, okay, now you're the new guy on the team again. So it's not like you built that. You never got comfortable. And then, I mean, I got back from so I did Afghanistan, switched teams. I went to Jordan, and as soon as I got back from Jordan, I think like 3 weeks later, I was down at Arslick doing that course, and I went with a Charlie on the team that he wasn't in Jordan with me, so I didn't really know this dude, but he was a senior Charlie, and he failed, and they kicked him off the team as soon as I got home and sent him to the B team or S3 or something. And I mean, it was just like, don't get comfortable. And Arslick was tough. I mean, I think they had 8 GBs there between all the groups, and even from SWIC, they had 2 guys from SWIC that failed. I think 3 out of 8 passed. Me and 2 dudes from 10th group. But I got back and he was gone, and I think that was just like, hey, don't get comfortable. you get a new team sergeant, it's just like, all right, what do we have, you know? And I don't think you ever get comfortable until like when you're a team sergeant or I think this is when you know that like you're someone that has, you know, you've got a seat is when the team sergeant or the commander or the warrant starts coming up to you and asking your advice. And you're like, hey, like, what do you think we need to do about this? Then I think you've earned your seat at the table, you know? And I don't believe in like show up to group and sit down and shut up. I think you should work hard, but just be a sponge until you know enough to have value, I guess. But for me, that took a while. You know, for other guys, I've seen guys come in that were like E7s in the regular army before, and they're team sergeants in like 2 years, and now they're CSMs. Like they're studs. But they had so much more experience that the army gave them before I got there. You know, so I think it's different. I think deployments shape people differently as well. You know, you guys that go through some shit together and they're different than some of the other people down the hall, you know? So,
What's the why carrying you through all this? Because we started out with just a real kind of, hey, yes or no. Do you want to be an X-ray? And then you said you did this much research, and then yes. But what was the why? Um, Working towards an end state, carrying you through all of this to get to that point where you didn't feel like your head was on fire, where you felt like you got a seat at the table. What did you feel like you were working towards?
I don't know, being honest about, like, honestly answering that, um, I'd say some of it was proving something to myself. I think that was a big part of it. Um, sure, there's, like, patriotism and duty and all that stuff, but that's it's like when they ask, like, why you go to selection, like, why do you join the army? Like, I didn't know. Um, I didn't have a good enough answer to be like, this is exactly why. I think you learn that over time. You learn more about yourself. And, one of the big things that I really enjoyed at group was when we went on deployments, it felt like it felt like our ODA or anybody that I was in group with on a deployment was like a big brother for the regular army or whoever we had with us, our support kids or whoever. And not big brother is like, woo woo, they're watching you, but big brother, like if someone punched my little brother in the face, I'd go take care of that shit. And I wanted to be part of that club that did that. And I think that was the biggest motivator was to be like, can I do that? Can I can I hang with the big bros that take care of things, you know? Because I think that like one of the character traits of a Green Beret that's not talked about is just their loyalty to others. Like if you screw with one of us or one of our friends, like God help you, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that'd be a scene in some firefights and stuff that people tell me about. They're like, man, if any sorts of casualties, God help the other side. That we with the shit that they would unleash on the other side. But that's true, right? I only had 4 soldiers my entire career. I was in the regular army, but I went to selection before I became an NCL. Went to selection. I seemed to be in charge of a lot of specialists, which was weird. It's just like, hey, I'm a senior specialist, and I got all the rest of the specialists as I went through the course. But I only got to do one thing and have soldiers, and I had 4 soldiers. Man, even today, still, I really hope the best for them, even more so than myself. If they need anything, like, all they could do is let me know, and I'll figure it out for them, even now. So I appreciate that answer that
Yeah,
you gave there.
I do remember like I didn't think about it, but like you saying that, like I remember the day I got my first junior echo. And it was like, you know, you leave your team room and you go to like the conference room and you give them their counseling and tell them like, hey, welcome to group. And it's like, oh man, I don't want to screw this. I don't want to screw this guy up. Like this is my little brother almost, you know? And it's cool, man, because group is a family. Like regardless of like, yeah, some people it's not for them. They get out early. Some people they stay in 20 years, but like your team and even like an extension of that, like your sister teams or maybe your company or just guys you went through, like it's like a family, dude. Like we did my first team, we were so tight. Like we did barbecues together. My Bravo had a wakeboard boat, so we went wakeboarding all the time. Um, we did we did everything together. We did life together, and I think that was something that I wasn't going to know that I missed. It wasn't something I knew that I would miss that much when I left. You know, where you know, like my wife would know all my teammates' wives. Like an FRG was like there, but it was like we all were family, you know, like the whole team, you know. Um, my first team was super close like that. My second team, we did Bible studies together on team. I know like there's some teams that are kind of religious, some that are not. Like on de- on deployments, like we would do like Sunday church together as a team. Like we were so close. And I don't have that with the regular army, but I don't think I mean, I try to like do what I can do, but you haven't gone through if you haven't gone through like what we've all gone through together, then the bonds aren't going to be that strong, you know? So, and I'm in a different place now, you know, I got a 10-year-old and a wife, so I'm more home with them. But I mean, my team sergeant had kids and we were all over there at his house. So I don't know, but I miss that part of group.
Yeah, the longer and shittier the road is, um, the more cozy everybody's gonna be with each other at the end of it, or well, or as they continue on down that road. It's just how it is. Regular Army, there's versions of it, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, plus, like if you think about it, just like PCSing, like in the regular army, like guys are in and out. Like I don't even know. I've been here, let's say 3 or 4 years, and how many pilots or crew chiefs have I seen that, you know, they're on the end of their time and then they leave. Like at group, we might go to Bragg for a couple of years and come back, or we might not at all. We might just be the lucky one that just stayed at group forever. But it's you don't have that longevity with people in the regular army either. You know, your commanders leave, you know, like you're a commander for a year or two, like your captain that's on your team, you're gonna still see him, you know? So it's different. Even on the officer or warrant side, like you're still gonna see those dudes, you know?
yeah, and you go to you go to SWIC or you go to schoolhouse, um, you're most likely gonna be with your year group guys. You're just gonna run
Yeah,
into your old
exactly.
buddies again.
Yeah, I remember I never went to SWIC to be like an instructor or anything, but I would I was on a team or in 4th Battalion the whole time, but when I went to SLC, it was like, you know, all the dudes that you went through the course with. And then it was SLC was wild, dude. Like we had a kid get pulled out. He was in 5th group with me. A kid get pulled out of SLC, and I'm like, no one gets pulled out of SLC. Um, the State of the Union was on that night, and Trump gave him a Bronze Star at the State of the Union during our SLC class. We had another dude that I went through the course with, and he had gotten some soldier's medal because he was a 10th group dude. And I think he was like hiking with his girlfriend or some friends at the time, and she fell off a cliff, and he was mountain qualified and saved her life. Like they had to literally like land a helicopter, and he kept that chick alive until they could take her. And but you hear like craziest stories from these people, you know. It's wild. I loved SLC looking back at it because, like you go your own special ways and then each group has their own personality, right? Like fifth group was like super serious because we're actually deployed all the time. And seventh group's partying in South America. They're super laid back. First group's pretty happy. And then you got like the Okie guys that are even different. But I loved SLC because it was kind of like a Robin Sage again, where it's like we bring everybody together and then we put them through whatever it was. It's not hard, but like it is cool to like come together and see your peers because, you get to group and you don't know anything, you know, you've gone through 1 to 2 years of training and you don't know anything. And then when you're a group, you start hearing about, oh, that guy's not on the team anymore, but he does this, or this dude wants to go to this school. Like you get the guys that are like, I want to go to Sephardic. And then you get the guys that are like, I want to go this different route. And, SLC, that they all have to go back through there. So it's kind of cool to see the routes that people go and where they all end up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and then here from my position, I get to just have people on and hear all these little things. Like nobody said anything about SLC, so I didn't get to go. I was the first 18 series of my year promoted to E7 because I hit the list, I got medically retired, and then I got promoted that day. So I was the first guy to get promoted to 7 for my year group because I got medically retired. I didn't get to go to
Yeah.
SLC, so I have a 2 on my dress uniform. But whatever, that's just how it goes. Sidebar though, I told that story to Josh, and
Yeah.
he's like, no, I made the list and then I got medically retired. I was like, well, per Army regulation, blah blah blah, you get promoted on the day before you get out. And he goes, yeah, I'm going to check into
Really?
that. And he's getting promoted to 8 now. Yeah.
Let's go.
So it doesn't mean anything, but I said, it does to me. It means a lot to me. I'm sure it does to you. So he says he's getting promoted to E8 now. He's just got to file the paperwork.
Yeah. I don't think we realize, like, we don't realize like, I was an X-ray, so I knew zero about the regular Army when I went over there. But like the experience that a dude has in aviation as an E6, I'm like, dude, why aren't you an E8 right now? You know? So like that whole like 7 and 7 thing, yeah, it was super nice, but man, compared to like that takes a long time for some of these other dudes, to get to 7. Like we retire guys that are like E6s, and are like, yeah, they were great. And I'm like, why are they just an E6 when after 20 years? Well, their career fields like that, and it's like, wow. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's no E5 slot on the team, or there used to not be, like you were an E5 when you got there, but you were filling an E6 slot.
I was in E5 for a while, I think for a year, and then 6 for whatever. But I had to go to a board too. I had to, Sergeant
Yeah.
Major, I only remember the one question Sergeant Major asked me. He asked me, what are the names of the pictures in the hallway? I answered that. I don't
Oh
even
yeah.
know if they didn't want to be there as much as I didn't want to be there as well, but I still was ready. But yeah.
I was so ate up. My senior tried to prep me for the board, and he's like, "You just got to exude confidence, man." It's my first military board ever because like E5 was like given to me. E6 was like the only board that I ever did. And so he's like, "Exude confidence, whatever you do." So I studied all these random like Quizlets or flashcards or whatever. And I go in there. So there's a billion questions they can ask you. They ask me some, and I'm answering them to the best of my ability. And they don't ask me a thing about like, how do you make this combo shot or anything about your job. So the sergeant major's like, all right, how do you think that went? And all I remembered was like exude confidence. And I was like, I think I crushed it, Sergeant Major. And he's like, no, but you're an E6 now. Congratulations. Like, all right, cool.
Um, yeah, not to brag, but I was pretty good at the boards. That's of something to be good at. Now in SF doesn't matter unless you get pulled to go detail to go do Soldier of the Year. or
I had a
NCO of the
teammate that
year.
did that. Yep.
I'm surprised I didn't get pulled, but to go do it because of my background. But in the regular army, man, if you start winning boards, you can do whatever the fuck you want. You know,
That's
they
awesome.
let you
Yeah.
do whatever the fuck you want. You start winning those boards, and that is how I was able to train up as much as I did for selection, and how I was able to train up to go to the Q course. So when I showed up, I was ready. When I went back to selection, I was ready. When I went to the Q course, I was ready. And that was because I did all this stupid shit in the regular army that nobody else wanted to do. And it just be good at it. But that's for you kids at home. There are ways to get what you want out of the regular army and have a good
Oh, yeah.
time. It's just, you got to do the shit that other people don't want to do. Whatever. You you said, you got to work with a couple other units and do some special things. Did you ever think about going that route after you got to have that experience?
Yeah, I did. That was kind of like my decision point. I I saw guys either like it was always kind of talked about that like 10 years is like your decision point if you're going to stay in the army or not. Like, cause now you're halfway to retirement, this and that. And then, so that was always kind of like talked about a group like, hey, if once you hit 10 years, like you're probably going to stay in. And I was getting close to it. And then I had the opportunity to kind of see behind the curtain a little bit. And it was amazing. Like the most professional, when they say like everything is better and more professional, it like the support of everything works. Like the little things that you complain about, like there's still problems everywhere, but the caliber of people, it's impressive. Um, I never wanted to go assess to be like an operator. I never wanted to go do the walk. Just like I don't think I could have done it. Like having a hard look at myself, you know. Um, I had the most stud of a Bravo that went and like a physical specimen, my senior Bravo, and didn't make it. And several guys that have not make it. This is another little tidbit for people. Like, don't ever let anybody tell you that you're not what they want for any type of selection you go to. Because I've seen guys get selected that everyone is like, there's no way. And then I've seen guys that everyone thinks is a shoe in that does not get selected. So the guy, especially like your your first sergeant or sergeant major in the regular army does not know what we're looking for. And I think it's the same thing for group. We don't know what they're looking for at the next level. So if you think you can do it and you have the drive to want to like it's going to suck and you're committed to that, then you can do it. But for myself, no. I thought about going some other routes in that realm, but ultimately, I also thought about kind of like where was I going to be at the end of my 20? Like, was I going to be sitting on a desk? Was I going to be on a team still? What would that look like? Um, one of the routes I was considering was like warrant for a group, but I didn't. I never wanted to be sergeant major. I probably said I did at a board, you know, that one board I went to. I said I want to be sergeant major of the army, but that wasn't what I wanted to do, you know. So I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to. I just wanted to be with the boys on a team or doing the stuff that I got to do later on by myself. I I wanted to do the job, and now like being detached from it, I think that that perspective is was probably skewed a little bit to not understanding like how important leadership is in those roles, and we need those like solid good leaders, but I didn't I didn't want to do that. So when I was looking at aviation, you know, we have last flights for people all the time that are, you know, they do 20, 30 years, they're a W4 or W5 and they're still flying until the day they don't, until the day they get out, you know. And the last flight's pretty sweet. They come in, dump a bunch of champagne on them. Families there, we celebrate. It's like, yeah, I just want to do. the job until I'm done, whatever that is, you know? And I kind of talked about it before, but when you get to group, there's a lot of, you start to see a lot of different paths that you can kind of specialize down. You know, at fifth group, like guys might want to go to A15 or the CRIF or whatever you guys call it now. But, and then there's guys that go very opposite spectrums of that, right? Opposite route. Um, whichever route you go, you know, if you ask A15 guys if they use all the training that they do, I mean, maybe, probably not, right? Like whatever training that we do on on the advanced side of special operations, we don't use a majority of it. And I think that was something that kind of drove me to wanting to change was I had gotten to do a lot of really cool training that maybe I wasn't going to do. For instance, the example of that would be like, I'm not a Halo guy, but I don't know a single guy that's done a Halo jump or actually a real jump into combat, but specifically Halo. Like it's something that we train, but we don't do it. And I wanted to get out doing what I trained a little bit more than what I was doing. There's guys that absolutely, you know, they get to do it. But I knew if I became a pilot, I was going to fly a helicopter, and I get to do that. So that was kind of my mentality in the shift there. Um, that probably pisses off some people to hear that, but I think everybody's experience at group is different too, and a lot of it's just circumstantial. You know, I know guys that have you go on the same deployment and it is completely different experience.
But yeah, everything's different, and especially perspective. So to know what you want to do, and I would say you knew what you wanted to do in that one thing. I want to do that one thing, and I want to do that until I get out. Where, guys, do we use the training? Maybe not specifically, but that is the gig. Like you are still, no matter what billet you're in, as long as you're wearing the beret, you're still a GB. So, oh, I might not use this particular skill, but I think it all builds into this whole. We're not operators, but we're, G, Green Beret billet. It all is encompassing, and they're all you still doing that thing. It's not as specific as flying, but you're still going to be a Green Beret, no matter where you're sitting or what. If you're a junior Charlie on the team, or whether you're the command sergeant major or group, like that still is the job, and all of those things. It's just not as specific as that. It's somewhere along the line it transitions to an admin role, most likely, if you're good enough and you can put it all together, you're going to get to a desk eventually. And that's just the way things go. Whereas with you guys, I mean, you get promoted from one seat to the other seat, and then you just stay there for the rest of your career.
Yeah. Yep. And I think also like when you and a lot of guys at group get to see it, whether it's like, you know, we work with other units that are tiers up and or you go to a school and you're taught by some of these people and, you know, you see the level when you get to peek behind the curtain and you see like, holy shit, like they're doing some real shit, you know? And you have to have an honest kind of look at where you're at. Like, one, are you probably going to do that at group or not? I don't know now. I don't know what their operations are, but there are things behind the curtain that group is not going to be the ones called up for, and that's just I mean that's just a fact, right? Like there are units that are called to do very specific things. Um, so at some point you got to decide, hey, do you want to try to go do that? Or do you want to do something different? And you got to have an honest assessment, not just about, you know, where you are in capabilities, but do you want that life, you know? And there's a whole lot of stuff there. So,
Yeah. What I heard, what was the term the other day? And I don't know if anybody said this while I was at group, although my memories from group are fuzzy. You know, there's white side ODAs and then there's red side ODAs as well, or whatever they call it, right? And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Um, and I guess they were talking about the CRIF or the SIF or whatever it's called these days and stuff like that. I was like, oh, okay, well, cool. I'm out now, so that doesn't apply to me. But I got to get some more knowledge on what the fuck that means. Well, did you make the right choice for you and your family and your mental health?
Um, the mental health piece, I it it didn't. I think everybody, like, I don't know. You can probably speak on this as well because you've had a lot more, interviews and stuff with people that are not doing this anymore. Um, I think I made the right decision to answer your question. I absolutely love flying. You know, I've had some great people that I get to work with as well. Like my is pretty good. Like I've got it pretty good. Like I enjoy it. Um, but I think the mental health piece, I think everybody that leaves and like it's whether you retire, a buddy that just retired yesterday. Um, and I wonder what life's gonna look like him in 6 months, or look like for him in 6 months from now. Just because you leave that community. And for me, like I went to flight school during COVID. So like I PCS during COVID. It was just like the world was weird. The military was weird. Life was weird. Um, but I really loved flight school. Like it was all of this new stuff of learning aviation from, you know, it's a lot of mental stuff for us versus the physical stuff that we had at group. But I was just learning so much. And then to once I got to my unit, I had all this time, and then you start to think about things. Like I remember, like I would always give myself at group like a moment to digest something. Like my grandma died on a deployment. I gave myself a moment, and then I went back to work. Um, Stuff like that. And I think you build up 7 to 8 years of that at group, and then you go away, like some shit's gonna come out um, when you leave, and you don't have I don't know if I would have had that experience if I had gone straight back to Clarksville, where you just go, yeah, I have a different job, but I'm still going to barbecues with old teammates and stuff. I think it's a good thing that I came out here because I got to kind of process all this stuff. But for me, like tying it back to fishing, like I would take 2 to 3 hours just driving to a lake with nothing on the radio, just unpacking shit. And it took a while, and I didn't go talk to people or whatever, but I think we all go through some sort of, you know, bad shit happens. We compartmentalize it. We kind of tuck it away, but shit's going to come back up, and you're going to have to kind of sort that out at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, we're very good at that. Just pushing it off to the side. Family, friends, relationships, uh,
Yeah. When
significant
I actually,
events.
yeah, I'll say this, like when I assessed within group to do the other job, we have operational psychologists that assess you on a different level, and you do go to a board, you do all this stuff. And I get through the board and I get selected, but your psychologist is like right there. And I really respected the one we had. And she looks at me and said that I had anger issues. And like, you don't ever want to be that guy, but I'm like, I don't have anger, I don't have anger. I'm not an angry person. But I never felt like I was. I never like, we all know like the angry sergeant major or stereotypical like angry bravo that's just smashing shit in the hallway. I was never that person.
That's because they're just seeing those tools for the first time because they're coming out of the cave.
Yeah.
the Bravos. They're
Yeah.
just they got to let them out of the cage.
Yeah.
They're frightened by the electricity and they're just seeing things. So you gotta take the Bravos with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Yeah. But I actually went back to her office after that and I was like, "Hey, I want to talk about this because I don't think that you got that right, you know." And I was like super wrong, you know. She's like, "Okay, well, do you ever?" She's like, "Being angry doesn't always mean that you're lashing out. Like, do you internally stress? Like, internalizing stress is another way that anger can show." It's like, "Oh shit," you know. And there was because when you're deployed all the time, you know, um, not even just the deployments, but like guys go through divorces or life happens and you you miss things. There, like, there's or God forbid, you lose some friends and you get pissed off, that things aren't working out the way that you think that they should, And I remember several times in group having like micro moments where, and I'm talking like go to the shower on a deployment, have like a tear or two and move on. And then being in a car, I remember driving a group and this was when the Jordan attack happened. I was driving to work. Um, and I just like was hitting my steering wheel for probably 5 seconds, screaming, and then I went to work. Um, and you just have like but like it's not the end, It's going to come back out eventually. So I think whoever is listening to this or whatever, when you leave group, you also leave a lot of those resources, like your friendships that are there or whatever it is, and it's going to come out eventually. So
Yeah, I was on somebody's show the other day, and I said I loved group. It was so easy. Like like they told you how to get there, all the classes to get there. There was the XYZ. All you had to do is show up and not fuck up. And then they hand you a beret. That's super rewarding. Then you get to group, and then you got somebody telling you what to do at all levels, telling you what to do to accomplish this. Very little direction, just accomplish this. That's easy too. All I got to do is get that done, and I got to accomplish that. And okay, that's all you need from me. Yeah, yeah, you just do that. So it's easy. The military is incredibly easy. Um, I thought group was easier. Like the regular army, you don't even have to fuck up to get in trouble. Like in the regular army,
yeah,
somebody else can fucking ruin your life for you without your input. Much easier. Where in group, that's much less of a chance to. You've got to take charge of ruining your life in group, which most guys do. We're very good at doing that. Um, um, I it's a fantasy land. It's not real. It doesn't exist. It's this perma deployment that we're on. You're now but rooted back in society with your fishing and being in the regular army to where you're back on. But in group, you're you're on your compound. You're separated with your boys in the
you're
team room,
you're 100% right. Yeah,
and and
absolutely.
and and you don't have to check into the real world. Like you said, something tragic happens in the family, you can just, that's not real. That didn't happen. That I can just ignore it. And you know what I'll do? Well, I'll just have some beers with the boys. Uh, Perfect. All done. The psychologists, they probably see that thing right away because they're just as good as we are at our jobs, at theirs.
Yeah,
And that's a
absolutely. Yeah,
baller move to go question them. A group, a psychologist go, I don't know if you're right here.
yeah, yeah. I
All
learned.
right. All right, Sergeant. Let me point out all the ways that you're angry. Oh, great.
Yeah,
Now I feel worse.
it
But
was great, but I mean, like, you have the trust in them to do that. I
yeah,
don't know that I, I don't know that I have the trust to go to some psych on post here that I don't know. At least at group, they're vetted.
yeah,
Like at group, they're vetted. Like I've got several friends that have already gone through this process. They know them. Like they're in the community. So I feel like that was okay. One thing I wanted to talk about, we kind of talked about it a little bit before, but you know, I was glad that going through leaving group and then having all this stuff pop up, uh, I was glad that for me it was like kayak fishing, you know. For other people it might be like three gun competitions or golf or whatever it is, you know. But one of the things that I try to do now is there are a lot of nonprofits out there aimed at helping people that are like Green Beret, SEALs, people in special operations that have, you know, they get out and then, or even in the regular army, whatever it is, but they get out and they're dealing with mental health. And there are a lot of um, great things out there for taking people hunting, fishing, like great programs,
Can
right?
you name any?
But um, there's Heroes on the Water out here for fishing. Um, I know I actually, so you had index archery on.
I was just gonna say, yeah, Jason.
My buddy that I said I went to college with that was infantry. He ended up becoming a recruiter, got T-boned by a semi and medically retired, really messed him up. He is an ambassador for index archery in Virginia.
Yeah, Jason's doing
And
a great thing out there.
yeah, so that would be another one. Um, Green Beret Foundation has like a they have their hands in like every type of way to help people out with like I know like they even do like the stem cell research and they're willing to try like different methods for things as well. Um, there's a bunch, but one thing that I'm trying to really help, or put out there is wouldn't it be great if these guys had something before that was kind of constant for them, like it was for me? Because a lot of times when you get out and you have someone that's, like I think about like the lowest times that I've had, the last thing I've wanted to do is reach out and ask for help. Like we are some of the biggest ego people and we do not want help, you know? So a lot of times for us, it's going out and doing what we already have. And man, I tell the guys that I work with that are just like a brand new crew chief, like a private that I get, and I'm like, hey, I try to sit him down, like Russ sat me down and was like, hey, you need something, because if you do 20 years, I don't care if you're a Delta Force operator or if you're a cook, you're probably going to have some shit go bad. And that could be life or it could be combat, be whatever, a divorce, lose a kid, a sickness. I've a former teammate that went through several teammates now that have gone through cancer. Um, it life is going to happen, and I want people to have something that's there for them besides the military. Because when you're done, it's over, you know? And one of the best retirement ceremonies I went to, a dude, he was in A15 and then he was in 4th Battalion with me. Super successful dude. Um, and he said, you know, the army was there. But he said what he's most proud of after 20 years is that his wife and family was standing next to him and that he had something else. Because when you leave, the day that I left group, someone sat in that seat and did the job. And you are replaceable. I know like we feel like, like we're special. There is another special person that's going to do your job. So hopefully you have something else.
Yeah, I think that may have been a touch of my problem because the military was the hobby. That was all I wanted to do. I, I even, and I stand by this. There's nothing else in my life that I want to accomplish. I did everything I want to do, and nothing is coming up still. Well, I mean, like, okay, it's only been, oh God, I've almost been out as long as I was in. I've been out 7 years now. Um, like, I don't know what else would. would compare, and I don't know if anything else would stack up. You could say that, "Oh, that's kinda sad," but I'm okay with it. What else am I gonna accomplish that I mean, I like what I'm doing every day, like, but I'm not building towards anything. I just wanna fucking keep crushing it every day, doing this and having fun. I don't wanna listen but how do you quantify that? I don't wanna listen to anybody tell me anything ever again. That's not a thing or to accomplish. That's just like a "fuck you," right? Because
Yeah.
to get to that point. So I'm chasing a fuck you. That's kind of fucked up. But
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you there. It's not healthy to make but that's all I wanted, and it didn't work out. As I said, to the point I took it so poorly that I'm sober now. Or I
Yeah.
went about it so badly that I'm sober now. It's 18 months, almost 18 months sober now. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild though, because like I got a group chat of, I got several group chats with like different buddies for different periods and group or some of the guys from outside of it. And the worst times that you go through are the closest people that you often have around. And it's whether you had combat or not, like some of the worst times you're going to have in your life is, you know, selection or whatever the hell you went through.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I didn't hate group chat. Everybody I talk to's got a group chat they're in, and I go, "I can't stand a group chat." I'm like, Get me I can't get out of a group chat fast enough."
My work now loves a group chat. And yeah, but like the ones that I really have, you know, the guys that you go to funerals with, you're really, when they text you, it's just list your day, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, usually at this point, we kinda get into some other stuff, but, you're still in, so I am gonna leave future operations off the table because that wouldn't be very OPSEC of me, but I assume we're gonna gloss all over the few years. I assume you're going to continue to uh, sit in the seat until the seat is done with you, and then just go back to being a lesser known operator, I guess, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep flying. I'll probably do 20, maybe a little over, but probably not a whole lot. That's my plan. If I can keep fishing for the army, I'm gonna do that as much as I can because when am I ever gonna get paid to go fish again? Probably not. Um, so that's it for me, and then fade off into the sunset with my family. So
No, I love it. I love it. Green Beret, helicopter pilot. You're the second Green Beret slash helicopter pilot's come on the show. Nick O'Kelly, his second episode will come out in a couple days here, but in the past, so kind of a weird thing. But he went over to SOAR after his time at Group, and so that's the question that I was trying to think of. What is it? So, do you ever, as kind of a thing, do you ever flex on them and still wear the Green Beret? Really? Never?
I wear my tab. That's it.
Okay. All right. All right. To each his
It's
own.
on.
To each his own.
It's on the shelf behind me. So I heard of guys that had done that, and I don't know. I don't know. I think that like law of it, or like the letter of the law, is that your commander, and I don't think it even specifies. Your local commander has to authorize that you can wear it. So like if my command team was like, yeah, you can wear that, then I'd wear it. Um, but I'm not on a team. Like I'm not like that's not my job
No,
right
I
now.
get it.
That's
I
not my
get it.
profession.
Some I would bust it out every once in a while just to be like, all right, good. Yep, she fits. But
It's behind me. It's back on the hung up past life, that all the stuff. But yeah, it's no.
no, that's all right. That's the correct answer. You wear the headgear of the unit that you're in. not of the other one. But all right, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I got 5 questions here. You already answered one of them without me even telling you what it was. So, but we'll rehash that one here in a second. But I got these
Okay.
5 questions, then I'll cut you loose, brother.
All right.
What's your response to thank you for your service?
Depends. If I'm fishing, I said thank you for paying your taxes. Just a joke. And but usually it's a pleasure. It's an honor. So
Okay. And the one that was there and I lost it 2.5 hours ago. Do you ever get any shit from people being like, oh, you fish for the army and that? Do people chip at you or chirp at you any for being on the army fishing team, or is that a thing?
do you mean like people
Uh,
disagreeing that we should have that?
that's kind of the route I was
Yeah.
going with that.
I mean, I'm in Colorado, so like politically, it's very polarizing once you get outside of Colorado Springs. You know, you go to Denver and it's different. But no, I've I really haven't had much of that. I thought maybe there would be more, but no, I haven't seen it. I don't know about the guys full time, like if they've seen it, but I mean, typically if I have it. So I'll tell you this story. So I check into the hotel for my last tournament, and it's up in kind of like by Steamboat here in Colorado. So I check in, and the dude's like, "Are you just trying to get the discount, or are you on orders?" Like he checked me to see if my military rate, and I was like, "I'm on orders." He's like, "Do you have them printed off?" And there was like a routing delay with their line of accounting, so I didn't have it printed off. I was like, and well, actually, it was a female at first, and she's like, she checked me, and she's like, "I got to get my manager." So I was like, "Okay." So she gets him, and I had told her like, "I'm here to fish a tournament for the army." So she goes and gets her
Get the fuck
manager.
out of here, buddy.
Exactly. Then it turns into like there's like four at the counter by the end of it, and they're like, "You do what?" And I couldn't tell if they were pissed off that that's what I was doing or just thought I was full of shit. I was like, "Look, I'm on orders. I can pull my laptop up, pull my orders up. I'm paying with a government travel card." And then he was like, "Oh, if you're paying with a travel card, then find out his dad was a GB back in the day." So we ended up like talking forever. And he's like, "I can't believe you get to do this." But like at first, it was like I totally got checked there. Like you were doing what? And I think so. I go back out to grab like some rods that I had to like rig up in the room, and I pulled up my Instagram. I was like, "Look, I actually fishing for the army. I don't want you to think I'm bullshitting you." He's like, "Well, a lot of guys come up here this time of year because they're scouting for hunting season. It's about to start in like a week or two for archery." So he's like, "Yeah, I had to make sure like you weren't doing that." It's like, "Okay, man." So
Like it's an epidemic. Um, but
yeah,
whatever. If I can save $14 on a room, I'm going to do it too.
hell yeah,
Or I
dude.
can board the Delta, or I can board the Delta flight first. I'm going to do that too as well. Uh, no, that's funny. Oh, good. I hope to people don't give you too much shit because give give the people that make the decisions shit, not the people doing the shit at this level. Like we can't affect change at our level. Don't give us shit. All right. What is the one characteristic that sets operators apart from the conventional forces?
Ability to think and make decisions. I had leaders, all of my leaders, like looking back at group and even teammates, like if you tell them to do something, they will find a way to do it. They don't need to be told how to do it. It helps sometimes. Sometimes, like, you don't need to tell them because they'll find a better way to do it. And in the regular army, that is not the case in a lot of places. It's so systematic sometimes that free thought, like, you have to have, you don't just trust everybody with free thought. But if it's someone at that level that, can make the right decision or If I just tell you to get something done, like, you're gonna do it. You're gonna find a way to do it. Like, if I told a team at 5th group right now, "Go plan an invasion into country X, and, 30 days, I wanna be picked up here," they'd figure out a way to do it, you know? It might not be the right way, but they'd figure something out. And then you tell somebody else in the regular army, and they're like, "How do I do that?" And they just stop, and they don't even ask questions sometimes. So, I think the what maturity is obviously, like, a huge thing, but the ability to think and develop a competent, wise decision, like, yeah. I think we learned so much at group that, like, Robin Sage will teach you one thing, it's that there's no right decision a lot of times, you know? Like, you make a decision and someone, something happens, and it's like one of those choose your own adventure books, like, I remember I got off the bus at Sage and, like, I think we murked a dude and stole a bus and then went to our G base or something, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" But it was just like one of those it was like choose your own adventure books, and I don't know. I yeah, you could trust a GB to do a choose your own adventure book and somehow still come out at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, that you don't there might not be a right answer, but there's definitely a wrong answer sometimes, so too.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
absolutely.
alright,
Yeah.
what is the one moment of your career that you wish you could go back and relive or redo, and it wouldn't change where you are now?
I would just spend more time with the boys. Just any deployment, just hanging out.
Did you appreciate it while you were on the team, or do you look at it now and go, "Man, I didn't stop to look around at all while I was living in it"?
I think I loved parts of it, but I don't think you're able to appreciate it
That's kinda what
when
the
you're there.
conclusion I'm drawing is that it's not possible to appreciate these good times that we had while we were having them.
Yeah, because I mean, some of the worst times are your best times. You just need that space, you know?
I do. We'll rehash this one here. What's the best piece of advice that you received during your career?
Get a hobby. Yeah, don't make the army or don't make the military your life.
No? Oh, why not? Alright, man, last one. What were you afraid of then, and what are you afraid of now?
I think then it was probably failure. Uh, and if you're an X-ray, you just see attrition everywhere around you all the time, and you don't know anything. So I think you're afraid of failing because you're going to go to the 82nd or whatever, or CA or PSYOPs, whatever route people did, or then you get to a team and you're afraid of failing because you're going to let somebody down, because everything is like, if you screw up, someone's going to die, and then you kind of get past that, but you're afraid of maybe the next thing. So I think fear of just like failure. And then now I don't really have that. Like now I've got the confidence to lead now. Um, like my aircraft is like a pilot in command. I'm super confident in leading my aircraft or flight or whatever that would be because I've gotten to that point. Now I'm in my 40s now and I have a family and I want to do that right. Like I want my daughter to have everything that she can have success wise, and it just changes, like it's just I guess that's just life, Now I'm afraid of not making that perfect. Like, do I make all my decisions correct for them? I've got more PCSs now and stuff, Now I look at like, do I put my kid in the right school or did we move to the right duty station? Was that good for her? That type of stuff. But you know, it's not about me, I guess, anymore.
Almost a mirror answer to everybody else. It was failure then, and now it's failure for the family. It was failure for the teams first, and now it's failure. They're afraid of failure for the family. So it's all the same thing. We're
Interesting.
all afraid of the same thing. We just term it differently.
We're all messed up.
Unless you're me, I'm afraid of rough water and tiny little fish. But
We'll
um,
fix that, man. Come on out.
we will not fix that. I spend a lot of time in the water to try and fix it. We are not. If I cannot watch like waves crashing and then not feel like shit, like oh man, like get the heebie-jeebies, we're not gonna fucking fix it. And I don't want to fix it because I ain't fucking going out there unless I have to. Now somebody will fucking call me on it and be like, "We're gonna go do a surface swim," and I'll be like, "Oh fuck, for content, it's all for the gram, man. It's all for the gram." But all right, Matt, I really appreciate you coming on. How can everybody find you on the socials? And what's that shirt you're wearing and hat too? Let's give them a shout out.
Yeah. Socials are easy. Just Matt Collins fishing, um, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff. Um, yeah, sponsor wise, Old Town is a huge one for me. Old Town Watercraft. I try to keep all of the businesses that I work with made in the U.S. or at least as much as you can these days. I'm really big on that. So Eagle Claw and Trocar, they're in Denver, Colorado. Family company. Jake's Lure Joint. Jake is a dude that makes baits. He's a sapper out at Leonard Wood. Great dude. Let's see who else. Eco Fishing Shop. They're a kayak dealer that I deal with. So if you're like, hey, I want to get into this, ecofishingshop.com is a good one for that. And then there's definitely some other ones, but those are the big ones. Go check them out. They're all linked up on Instagram and stuff. So
Yeah, man, I really appreciate you coming on. Hope you continue your career and get everything else out of it you want to. And you got anything for me?
oh, thanks for having me, man. It's been fun talking.
Yeah, get to reminisce a little bit from the good old days. It's weird. It's weird that they are now, but
I think our careers are kind of lined up because if what year did you get out?
I got here in end of 18 is when I got back home. So
I think that my last deployment was around that time. So like, yeah, we're kind of sandwiched in there together.
we'll talk more about that one after I press pause here.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on, brother. Bye, everybody.